forces have been driven back by the Thai military.
The top story, the Sawa KwaZulu-Natal police have confirmed that a former municipal manager of the Umzimkhulu municipality has been arrested in connection with the 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaqa. Headlines at 3:30 for SAFM News. I'm Kolofelo Tefo.
In sports this hour, Shukri Conrad left to rue missed chances in game of millimeters, and Osaka splits with coach. More details at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
You are the biggest saver we've ever had.
2,794 Rand a month. It was the easiest switch ever.
What was the real deal they could offer you?
870.
That's amazing. You're always getting something out.
Yeah.
I've been battling to get nice car insurance. Outsurance, I found them. I'm saving a cool $360.
Get the real deal with the real savings.
I made the right move.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
Just phone Outsurance, get a quote and see what they can offer you. If you don't save that 321 like I did, you might say get a 500 or $1,000 back. Service and savings, you'll always get something out.
How is it that Outsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible. What brought you and Outsurance together?
718 Rand. I end up saving.
They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out, because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
It's Monday afternoon, and I trust you had a wonderful weekend. And I would be tempted to say that perhaps it's all chilled on a Monday, but that is never the case. In fact, it's never the case every single day. And that's why we call the show The National Pulse, because in its own way, it is a complete reflection of the pulse of the nation, the type of things that you feel every single day. And I can tell you now, there's like potentially 3-4 things I could be talking about. But let's get straight to what I think is a fundamental issue going forward, and something we're going to talk about, I'm sure, today and tomorrow and maybe the next day, because it does reflect on the African National Congress, and in that case it reflects on a party that's been governing the country for 30-odd years. My name's Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the National Pulse. To connect, you know that, save the number 086 000 2032. Then WhatsApp, you have the option to text or to voice note 0614 104 107. And do use the hashtag The National Pulse when you are tweeting The National Pulse. Tag SFM Radio and tag me, Ashraf Garda. Right, first things first, let's talk about the ANC. So Colin Malachi is the president of the ANC Youth League, and he has made some comments about the ANC and the Youth League and diversity, or maybe very importantly, the lack of racial diversity within the ANC Youth League. Let's get the thoughts of the president of the ANC Youth League. Colin, appreciate your time. As always, thanks for connecting to us on the National Pulse.
Well, thank you very much for the invite.
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, we were discussing it as a production team, and we felt like what you're saying is so important. It really is an item on the national agenda at a time where there's 50 other things that we can put on the national agenda. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to start by quoting you. I mean, you gave a talk addressing Youth League members in the Eastern Cape over the weekend, and this is what you said, and I quote, right? I am seated here, and I do not see the proper spreading of the demographics of this country. I do not see white people here. I do not see coloureds here. I do not see Indians. And then you continued saying the ANC has a non-racial character, and that non-racial character must reflect in the preparatory school of the ANC, because if it does not reflect here, it will not reflect in the mother body. The Youth League is where we must prepare leaders of the mother body. Okay, end quote. So that's what you said, and a whole lot more. What sparked it off? The fact that, of course, you counted the numbers and you realized exactly what you were just saying, isn't it? The numbers just don't add up.
Look, it has been worrying me for years. When we were trained as early as COSAS, we trained that the ANC is a uniting organization, and ANC is an organization that welcomes all racial groups in the organization, but also it's got a non-racial character. And that non-racial character must reflect in all its activities and decision-making of the African National Congress. Now, over time and over years, we seem to be losing that character. And in that address, I was saying that we must take responsibility as the youth of the ANC, because we are of the African National Congress. Now, if ourselves as a school where we must educate the young people about the country and the politics of the country and how to take the country forward, we are not the reflection of the demographics of the country, then we must be worried, because we are failing to deliver the best in the African National Congress from all racial groups. Now, my statement mainly, I was mobilizing youth of the African National Congress in the Eastern Cape and also in the country, because it was live on our page. Yeah. That let's worry, let's start recruiting everyone. But also we must be worried why other racial groups are not joining the African Congress. If we became an organization that is only focusing on one race, are we not addressing also the interests of other racial groups? Now, that is a debate that I wanted to spark in our own structures, and we must be worried about it, because our values and our principles are guided by that. Now, it means we're also moving away from what we stand for and what makes the ANC survive for over 100 years.
So do you think that's the case? Because, I mean, if I go to the period of around 1990, and I was chatting to my producer, Temba, about it, to say, you know, the period of, let's call it the internal ANC, I'm talking about the UDF, right? It was as non-racial as you could get, with major hotspots around the country, you know, led by people who may not be seen as like Black African, right? But then, of course, came the ANC, and every one of these people bought into the vision of the African National Congress. So is it that in fact, is it apathy on these people, or is it more importantly neglect from the ANC to understand that its constituency is exactly what it always said it should be, which is a non-racial South Africa, and somehow they've moved away from that?
Look, even during the dark days of apartheid, we had the likes of Joe Slovo and many others who were serious leaders of the African National Congress. Even the formation of the Communist Party in the country in 1921, it was mainly white-dominated, but they ultimately influenced the body politics of the ANC and influenced many documents that changed the character of the ANC to even become an internationalist organization, because the ANC, we want this democracy in this country also because of international solidarity, which countries in Europe and everyone else, because they saw the ANC as an organization that unites everyone in the country, whether black, Indian, or colored. They can all live in a country that is led by the African National Congress. Now, I think over time, we can say it's neglect on our side, because the Youth League over time ourselves, we became, we started to utilize only the basis of majority to determine leadership. And by doing that, the minorities felt sidelined in the organization. And I think as we look into our own NGC of the Youth League now in September, it's a big debate we're going to have of documents around it, that maybe we must find a way of even minority groups feel that they don't have not all positions or elections must only be based on minority, but also principles must be there. There must be quotas in place that are placed that a certain quota of minority groups must be in a reflection of in our structures, even if we don't have the majority vote in our conferences.
All right, because again, if I continue quoting you, you said, if here we are a mini PAC, then we have a problem. Even when we recruit, we must be deliberate in recruiting everyone from all corners of this country. Whether you are black or white, you must be in the ANC. So the question to you is, has the ANC policy shifted from that all-encompassing, all non-racial movement or party of around late 80s, 90s? Or, in fact, it hasn't shifted, but there's been a miscalculation in terms of being able to speak to these groups of people directly? That means what I'm saying is, has there been apathy?
Look, it is consistent non-racial organization. That character has always been protected by all different generations. The issue is the implementation of it. And I think there is the Constitution does not enforce it enough. We really have to make it a constitutional matter now that must be enforced. As much as we are enforcing affirmative action, as much as we are enforcing other issues of interest of the past, we also need to enforce that the ANC as an organization reflects the demographics of the country. But also, we know very well why the PAC was formed by the group of 8, which were leaders of the Youth League and the ANC at that time. It was because they were not agreeing with our charterist character of the movement, of inclusiveness of different races. Now that statement felt that when I said that, I said, let's not go back where we have left before. We have done better over time and over years. And let's take at least as the movement. But it's an organization that is an hegemonic society, that is a reflection of everyone in the country.
Would you say, therefore, and I know your party has had many problems on issues of leadership across the board in the last few years, but would you say one of the factors that has cost the ANC to drop to around 40% in that last election has been just this, that an inability to speak to as broad a church as has been described as possible, and it's actually cost you votes?
Yes, it's true, because we have neglected many communities that in the past were supporting us. That's why we have got political parties now that are formed to divide society according to racial groups. Those political parties are formed because the vacuum is open, and that vacuum, it's only the ANC that can close it. Now, if other racial groups are starting to feel neglected, parties are going to say they are formed for colors, others are saying they are formed for whites, others are going to say they are formed for Indians. Now we're taking the country back where we took it from, and which is a reversal of the gains of democracy. And that is something that we need to work very hard to protect.
Now, we had Logie Naidu on radio here, I think about 6 months ago, of course from KZN. And interestingly enough, he made the same point. I mean, he's been part of the ANC leadership within KZN. And he himself said, honestly, where are the Indian leadership within the ANC in KZN in particular, where clearly they have a sizable number of people. It may not apply to Joburg, but certainly to KZN it does. And he effectively lamented what you said, that whether it's apathy or whether it's neglect, either way, there's a complete absence of that. So here's the thought, right? In terms of your views, I mean, it reflects your views. Has there been a reaction from, as you called it, the mother body in the last few hours?
Look, the mother body knows that it's a calling. When we are doing what we call the renewal of the movement, and the ANC, those are part of the things that we must go back and look into it. It's a compulsory matter. It's a policy matter of the movement. It's our posture as a movement. Now, the role of the Youth League as a body of opinion in the African National Congress is also to now and again remind the mother body of the values and the principles of the movement. Now, they know it's my responsibility as the president to remind, but also to mobilize the youth and conscientize the youth that the posture we're taking as the ANC now is not a reflection of really what the ANC stood for. Now, as the youth must lead by example and be the first to self-correct.
So practically then, what is it that the Youth League can do now?
The Youth League, what it can do now, we must start a big program of recruiting, and we're going to engage all of these communities that we have neglected and get to understand what are we doing wrong that we must correct for them to come back to the African National Congress. We are going to have more forums. We're going to engage NGOs that represent certain groupings Also as part of our build-up to the national dialogue, where we want that unity of South Africa, because we believe that it's only the ANC that has got a space for everyone to be in, that unites everyone, and that will be able to work towards a direction of building a better South Africa for all. Now, that is where we are, and we believe that as we're celebrating 70 years of the Freedom Charter, it's one of the programs that we must lead moving forward.
Okay, interesting. I mean, here's a comment from Mthunzi, which I thought is just worth repeating. He's saying, Ashraf, please tell Colin Malachi it's not only Indians, whites and coloureds who are not part of the ANC Youth League. It's everyone who hates corruption, including black people like myself. Everything the ANC and everything associated with the ANC has become too risky to associate with honest people, and thieves are like oil and water. Just your comments on that.
Look, if you have listened also to my full address, I fully spoke against corruption. One of the statements I've mentioned is that there's no one who will follow a political party that is seen to be corrupt. And as part of the renewal program, we need to clean up corruption out of the ANC. Those that are associated with the ANC who appear to be corrupt, we must distance ourselves from them. That's why we fully support the integrity committee of the ANC that was put in place. We fully support the step-aside policy of the ANC. Today, where we're seated, if you are charged of corruption in the ANC, you can't lead in any position. You are requested to step aside. Now, it's part of the programs of self-correcting. The call was made upon by the people of South Africa that they want the ANC to self-correct, and that is the program we're in, and the UT is leading that program of renewal.
Okay, let's then look at just in terms of a step forward. So, yes, you said you need to identify leaders who are not black, but I can also tell you that certainly there's also been a huge, let's call it an Africanist agenda, which was not the case in the previous 20 years. It was very much a non-racial agenda. So you have more and more people calling in on talk shows like this to say, you know what, it's not enough just to be South African. We have to push what is black, as in black African first. So my point is not whether you're right or you're wrong about what you've just said, right? But whether that will lend you more votes or less, meaning that ultimately all political parties want to stay in power.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to correct. We can mobilize society on those bases because we're dividing them. We can have right wingers going all over saying they are Afrikaners, represent Afrikaners only in South Africa. That is wrong. We need organizations that represent everyone. We need organization that knows that there was once apartheid in this country that displaced majority of South Africans, which are black. With some of the policies that must be put in place to redress those problems that we're faced with, because we need to address the injustice of the past. We can't ignore that. And I know some of these groupings that want to protect the image of apartheid. And they must understand that for them to also enjoy those privileges in this country, they need a country that is got an economy that is inclusive of everyone, where everyone is a full participant in it. Then no one has to worry about protecting any interest because everyone will be fully participating, mainly majority of South Africans.
Okay, what about in terms of the ANC proper? What are the type of conversations that the ANC mother body? What have they been having around the multiracial or non-racial nature of the ANC? And I don't mean since the weekend, I mean even before that. Has there been enough concern about, that question? Where have these people gone to?
I can confirm that there's been a concern. In all conferences, in all NGCs, that engagement has always been there. That must happen. I think now the Youth League, what is doing, we want to practicalize it now. We want to go to the ground and start engaging the affected stakeholders on this matter. But the resolution has always been there. The ANC is highly affected and concerned about the matter.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Accepting perhaps just on the issue, and this is not a racial issue or a non-racial issue, but on the broader issue of the ANC itself remaining relevant to all South Africans, including the black African majority, right? What do you think in terms of what does the ANC need to be doing to reshape the party to ensure that it remains not just relevant, but to be able to convince the electorate to vote for them in the local election and then the next general election? This in the midst of, as you know this, there's not a day that goes by when there's not criticism of the ANC from people who are actually part of the ANC themselves.
Look, one of the things that our people are always raising, which is it affects everyone, the issue of service delivery, especially at local government level. And I know the ANC now is set up a local government intervention team. Even the Youth League we've set up the local government intervention team where we are going to check all service delivery municipalities. Mayors those that don't work must be removed. Everyone must be running and working and making sure that the service delivery in our communities, the issues of high level of unemployment, is one of the big issues that we want to resolve. We've introduced also the issue of export quotas and the industrialization of the economy. There's many other activities introduced. We've requested everyone to play a role, private sector and everyone, to make sure that all of these issues are addressed. Now, it's a bigger challenge that we're facing. Because we know that the structure of our economy does not benefit the majority of South Africans. Now, everyone else is frustrated in the country on those bases because how the structure is structured is not sustainable. That's why we're in situations that we're faced with. But the ANC is starting to act on it. We got punished and we're staying at 40% where we are. Because the people of South Africa felt that their own parliament of the people is no longer addressing what they believe should be addressing. Now, we must take responsibility. I say that it's us as the ANC who must take responsibility of the 40%, no one else. Now, as the Youth League, we're in a program to hold everyone accountable. If you have been following us, we've been calling ministers to be pulled to account. We've been everywhere engaging and making sure that wherever the service delivery issues, we've been fighting in every corner of this country to make sure that communities, their matters are addressed.
Let's end with this. I mean, this weekend there was also the conference around the revolutionary parties or movements of Africa, right? Isn't it a fair comment? And I use the example of maybe a football team that team that won you the league 20 years ago can't be the same team now. And you also have to have new tactics. It just does not work. Meaning that the tactics and the team that led the ANC, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, if you're applying the same principles now, that it is a lot more difficult to govern and to sustain governance and to retain leadership than it is to actually win over power, which is the ANC did before. Meaning there has to be a major rethink on all fronts of the ANC to ensure that it continues winning. Otherwise, they will lose.
If you have been following our conferences of the ANC, you'll realize that the ANC will be succeeding as a youth league to support the young leadership to win all of these conferences, including now the last conference apart from the officials, some of the officials. But you can check that the NEC, majority of them is a newer generation has been exited outside structures, and the younger one has been taking over. Now there's new groups that are sweeping, and we know that the next conference it will be worse. The younger generation will have taken over the ANC because the thing now is that a younger generation must take the ANC and move forward, so they move the country forward with new ideas.
Okay, thank you.
On the issue of the soccer team, Kaizer Chiefs has been losing all the time, but it's still the biggest team in South Africa.
Well, you see, that's the problem. The biggest team doesn't mean they're winning titles, and you know that. They're battling for a striker, and you don't have a striker, you're not going to win matches, so you need to find your striker for the ANC Youth League and the ANC. Colin Malachi, President of the ANC Youth League, much appreciate this conversation with us here on the National Pulse. Right, I need to get your reaction right after this.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, you certainly know what the ANC Youth League leader feels. What do you feel? You're on the pulse. Let me feel it.
Hi, Ashraf and lovely South Africans and your team as well. It's Eddie from Understress. The Youth League leader, Comrade Malachi, speaks as if nothing is falling apart. I think he needs to wake up. I'm also a member of the ANC. As long as we don't come very strong on issues that affects our people, we must forget. We are losing members, not only from other groups. African people are leaving the ANC. He must wake up. I think he speaks as if we are still in, 1994, 95. And things are falling apart because of people who are, bringing this country down every day. Thank you very much.
Well, there you are. I think it's a point that was made just as he wrapped up the conversation with me. Younger in Cape Town, go for it.
Hi, Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ashraf, so disappointed, with the president of the ANC Youth League because he mentioned that the ANC does not reflect the demographics of the country. But you will know, Ashraf, that the majority of people in South Africa are black people. So I don't understand where is he coming from with that idea. And like you said, the ANC policy is a non-racial, movement, and we cannot, force, white people to join the ANC and play a meaningful role, whereby, most of them, don't agree with the policies of redress. So, I don't know if he thinks that we must, go and grab, white people and put them in leadership position, while he knows that, in order to be a leader in the ANC, you must, be an activist first. So, really, I think I don't know where he got this idea, but yeah, no, it is misplaced.
Okay, Younger says it's misplaced. Thank you for that, Younger. Well, I tell you what, there's bound to be even further reaction, and you know that. You can call in. We'll take your calls, not now, as soon as we can. 086 000 2032, but you can WhatsApp, text message, or voice note. You can do that right away. And you know the number, right? I'm sure you do. You're a regular. Let's get the news headlines. It's 3:30. Here's Kolofelo Tefu.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. KwaZulu-Natal police have confirmed that a former municipal manager of the Umzimkhulu municipality has been arrested in connection with the 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaqa. Forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan has made a sworn statement denying claims made by Action SA parliamentary leader Athol Trollip, and diesel prices are expected to go up next month, while petrol users can expect a slight reprieve. I'll have details at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R21 northbound in Kempton Park has a crash reported at Atlas Road. The M1 northbound in Sandton, roadworks with traffic restrictions at Grayston Drive, and the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a crash reported near Umgeni Road, and Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M7 checks Hadwell Drive in Heidelveld is where police incidents reported at Klipfontein Road, so expect delays. The M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and Jan Smuts Drive in Athlone slow moving at Klipfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Right, to me, a lot has happened. We've had the Banyana team at the Women's African Cup of Nations. There was the Women's European Championship. There were other games all over around the world and other sports too. What are you going to start with? Banyana, right?
Yeah, definitely Banyana. Very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, 3 Banyana players have been named in the official 2024 WAFCON team of the tournament, recognizing their performance at the tournament. Captain Refilwe Jane, along with defender Bambanani Mbane and Karabo Dlamini, were honored for their crucial roles in South Africa's campaign. Mbane and Dlamini were rock solid at the back, helping to keep a tight defense, while Jane ruled the midfield with her sharp passing vision and energy. Meanwhile, Jane believes that the team is in transition and a lot of positives can be taken from this year's experience. This is despite failing to get a medal.
A disappointing one to sum up the tournament, going home without the medal, but given the situation within camp, given the players that we had, a lot of transition that was taking place in the team, we're hoping that a lot of positives can be taken from this tournament and build up on that.
Then Durban City head coach Gavin Hunt has confirmed the arrival of Dane Clayt as a reserve team head coach, and says that the appointment is to have someone who will make an immediate impact with the youth team. Hunt and Clayt share a rich history as coach and player, having won 3 league titles with Clayt at SuperSport United before adding a 4th at the now defunct Bidvest Wits, with this being their first time working together as tacticians.
Yeah, Dane's come in with a disky. I've got him with a disky. He knows, what you're trying to do, and he's been successful with disky teams before. He likes to work in that space. He's a good coach, which is the most important thing. It's not about bringing people in, bringing people who can coach, you know what they're doing on the training ground. You know, we don't want people talking on computers, we want people training people on the training ground. That's the most important thing. And I think he knows what to do and you know how we want to work, and so yeah, it'll be good for the future.
Elsewhere, England striker Michelle Agyemang has been named as Euro 2025's Young Player of the tournament. The 19-year-old Arsenal forward played only 138 minutes of the competition in Switzerland and did not start a single match. However, she was very crucial to the Lionesses' run to retaining the European title with a penalty shootout win over Spain in the final. Then in cricket, Proteas coach Shukri Conrad was left stunned. This is after the unexpected loss in the Tri-Series final against New Zealand at the Harare Sport Club. In a dramatic final over, South Africa just needed 7 runs to win off the final over, and Matt Henry bowled brilliantly, supported by some outstanding fielding. In the end, Henry beat Suniran Mutusami, resulting in a disappointing 3-run loss.
Yeah, ifs and buts. At the end of the day, it wasn't meant to be, but we played some really good cricket today. We played really well. New Zealand have been the class side in the tournament, so hats off to them. But I'm thrilled with the way we played, and there's so many good things that we can take forward from here. So whilst the result is disappointing, there were so many good things that happened there today that we can be really proud of, and that I am really proud of.
In tennis, 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka has parted ways with coach Patrick Mouratoglou. This is after less than a year. The Japanese star teamed up with a Frenchman just last year in September, and Osaka did not play in 2023. This is after the birth of her daughter, and has struggled for consistency after returning to the professional circuit a year ago, and is currently ranked 49th. Finally, in golf, Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie says that he is very proud that he was able to help secure the Live Golf Tournament for South Africa, and he has promised that it would rank among the best sporting events ever held in the country, and guaranteed a memorable experience for players and fans alike. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Okay, perfect. By the way, so you Banyana losing,
yes,
which happened Friday night, yeah,
Friday night,
long time ago. I mean, we had this long conversation about third place, fourth place, and
Yeah.
gold medal. Overall, your assessment of that team in the tournament?
It's quite unfortunate that they didn't come back with a single medal, because I do know that their performance wasn't that bad. I actually wrote an article, and I'll share it on my page, just looking at the numbers of Banyana at the tournament. They were actually quite good. However, the missed chances and not being too tight defensively is what let them down. So as Refilwe Jani did say, it is a transitional team. Most of the players that were there, they're still young, they're still trying to get their ropes around the team. Obviously, Coach Desiree Ellis is still trying to find the future of the team, and most of the senior players won't be there come the next 2 years or so. So I'm hoping that they build themselves from here.
And I think your point is this, that in all sports, when you get to the business end of the sport, the lines are so fine.
Absolutely.
So you can't say, if only, like, it's gone.
It's gone.
You just have to get the rub of the green right in the moment, or else, isn't it?
Yeah.
Point taken. Okay.
Right.
More sport in an hour.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30, or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Tell you what, there's two regions in the world that, there are troubles everywhere. But, the issue of Israel and Palestine is an ongoing story that's gone on for years and years and years. And you wonder. The other issue of the Sudan is a fairly recent thing. But, of course, you've got now Sudan and you've got Southern Sudan, which is an independent country. And the Southern Sudan has got its own problems within its own country. And then you've got Sudan, as you know it, or the northern parts. And they've got their own issues, and there's been such issues. I remember being in Cairo a year and a half ago, and they were saying, all the financial institutions can't be based in Khartoum any longer. They're in Cairo because it's not safe to be there, because effectively there's a war, there's a civil war in that region. So, to remain topical, Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, have announced the formation of a parallel government. Now, the RSF leader, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, would head the 15-person government council. That would include regional governors as well. No surprises at all. The Sudanese government, the actual government, they've rejected the announcement. What does this mean now for that region going forward? Ibrahim Dean is with me, as always. He's an independent researcher and a political commentator. Ibrahim, appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, how often does it happen where within a country another grouping announces a parallel government and just people turn a blind eye to it?
It's become something over the past couple of years, ever since post-Arab Spring, where you're seeing these formations of transitional governments and parallel governments in countries that are under war. Now, as you're saying, you're talking about a North Sudan, a South Sudan, and we may have now soon a West Sudan. But neighboring Libya, for example, has two governments. And I think that's the model that they're following, where you have a parallel government who controls a very small swath of territory. Granted, Sudan is, I think, the third biggest country on the continent. It was the biggest before the split of South Sudan, so it's still big. But area controlled is a lot smaller than the country as a whole. But obviously, when things are not going well for a certain party and they feel that they may not be able to consolidate control of more territory, they're declaring this parallel state, parallel government, and then hoping to get, be able to leverage external support, because then there's some sort of a legitimacy that these countries,
maybe that's the key point, isn't it? One thing is having two, warring parties, but when you declare a parallel state or parallel government, you're effectively saying, we're governing anyway, with and without you. It's a direct affront. It's like having two referees refereeing a match of rugby at the same time. That can't give, meaning that they would only do so if they think they're going to have support. Wouldn't you think so?
Yes, and listen, this move has been in the offering for a good few months. Just in February already, the RSF declared a government of national peace and agreement. So it's taken so long, which is quite the biggest surprise is that, rather than the fact that they've declared the parallel government. Now, there's two theories on governing countries and statehood and declarations of statehood, and most of them are based on the consensus has been that it's all about recognition. And so, if many countries around the world recognize a parallel government or a different government, as we're seeing in Libya, there's a sort of a legitimacy or way to actually channel their arms and their funds to these governments. So, we see then it becomes a de facto split, but also a way of rearming without being in violation of arms embargoes and being criticized globally for doing so.
Okay, so now we do know, no surprises, the actual government has rejected this federal government. I would be shocked if they thought otherwise, right? What has happened since then?
So, this is the bigger question, is who then recognizes. And there's actually been much quiet about this. Originally we're thinking that, your Kenya, your Ethiopia, your UAE may quickly recognize this government, but it may be a situation similar to the Libyan situation where, everyone talks about the government of national accord in Tripoli, but they all in the background support, Haftar's eastern forces. Similarly, this may be the case. Now, what it does show, though, is that that there's a military situation that at least the RSF doesn't believe it can win over the whole of the country militarily, and that it wants the ereas where it controls to actually have a de facto or de jure governing structure, and eventually what we've all been talking about for the past year, especially because RSF's base is in Western Darfur and parts of Kordofan, that there may actually be a splitting of the of the country itself. As for civilians caught in the crossfire, unfortunately, the leaders, both sides, don't really care. And that's why we're seeing the 150,000 dead and the 12 million displaced. It's now just become a number, and we forget that there's actually people
this is an issue we may have discussed before, but what is the basis of the argument? That means, where do they differ to the point where they've had a civil war and now declaring parallel governments, within that one country?
So it initially started off as a power struggle between two generals. Both of them are not Democrats, both of them trying to constrain and in a sense instrumentalize civilian power for their own benefits. It started off as that, but it's now become a situation where, ethnic cleavages have resurfaced. There's war crimes against humanity, mass starvation, use of sexual violence. So, the areas have become deeper. But at the top of it, it's two generals who want to stay in power and who don't want to give up power. And so that's why we see Burhan on the one side as the Sudanese National Army, heading the government, and Hamidti on the other side. Basically all the political figures that they talk about, the prime minister, all of them are de facto and serving basically these leaders and not necessarily serving the people or the country as a whole. And so, at the end of the day, it's about these two generals, but solving the issue longer term will mean a lot more because the conflict has endured for so long.
Okay. Lastly, any reaction, if any, from the African Union?
There's been no reaction, but the African Union wouldn't support a parallel government. It hasn't done so in its history previously. It's just not within the African Union doesn't want further separations of powers. And in actual fact, had a declaration in the early 60s, especially when these countries were being declaring independent, especially, because of the fact that, many had contested borders. And so the African Union would, one, would not want a country separations, and two, is unlikely to support, the new government, even though, many of its big powerful powers such as your Ethiopia, your Kenya, do, support or have expressed their support for the RSF. But, at an institutional level, the African Union has also been superseded by the Arab League and neighboring countries, in how they can influence the conflict.
All right. Let's end with this. I've left this for last, and you just touched on it for a moment. Like, what impact is all this having on the people?
As there's more governments, and there's as this play, the RSF plays an international a parallel government, and as countries start using that as a means to actually equip the country more, we get more arms, and we're seeing this in the on the ground. Where just in the past month, there's been over 400 civilians killed in airstrikes. The conflict in Kordofan has heightened. The RSF, for example, continues to besiege Al-Fashqa in Western Darfur. So, civilians on the ground, it just gets worse as more arms filter in and as a solution becomes less likely. And a parallel government means the solution is less likely because they're now not talking about negotiating. They're talking about two different governments and which one is legitimate and which one isn't.
Sure. Too often we have these battles between people over the egos, and it's the people who ultimately suffer. Ibrahim Dean, appreciate your time. Thanks for enlightening us on an issue that's really a dark issue within the country, within the continent, and the country of the Sudan, with now the formation of a parallel government by the RSF. Thank you here on the National Pulse.
You are listening to SAFM Radio this Mandela Month.
It is in your hands now.
Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival in partnership with SAFM, where music, culture, and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sanal Musician, Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zing Lumalo, Trompis, and many more. More than just music. Share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. Imbaula. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, you know we normally have the news, of course, at the top of the hour. We're going to have the news coming up in 5 minutes' time. And the reason for that is there's a briefing on the Criminal Justice System Inquiry, and the Acting Deputy Chief Justice will do just that. So we're going to take that entire thing live. That comes up at exactly 4 o'clock, right? But it does mean I can talk to you now. Let's get your thoughts. Supra, go for it. Hello.
Ashraf, thank you very much for giving the President of the Youth League an opportunity to give a perspective.
Thank you.
On non-racialism. But I just want to come it from a slightly different angle. For instance, non-racialism, its attainment is not only measured in quantitative terms. What I mean is, it doesn't mean if you are able to count faces of white people in the membership profile of the ANC, then you have achieved non-racialism. Because you also have to look at the qualitative nature of the non-racialism that we are facing. Even if the 7% of white people are to all join the ANC next week, it doesn't mean, Ashraf, that you will have achieved non-racialism. As long as some of the following issues remain unaddressed. One, if the economy continues to be skewed in terms of ownership, control, management, to be skewed in favor of white people in this country. Land ownership. Just recently there was a report on within the health sector how the medical aid, there's biasness against black people and so on. In the financial sector, for instance, the banking sector, until you resolve all those things, even if in quantitative terms, you've got white people within the ANC. It doesn't mean that you have achieved.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Okay, I'm going to move on only because of time. I hear you completely, and I think you are right. And maybe it's a bit of both. That means it can't just be about the numbers. It also has to be how society is reflected. But also, it can also be a case of maybe they've been neglectful as the ANC. And I'm not talking about other parties. I'm only talking about the ANC because there's a conversation we've been having. Supra, thank you for that. You've put it on the agenda. Let's get another thought. We go to the Midrand now. Another comment about the ANC. Khotso, go for it. Hello.
Yes, Ashraf, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, look, man, just to assist that young man of the ANC Youth League, Colin, I think Colin needs to wake up from the slumbers. The young man talks like he's sitting in a cafe while the reality is on the ground. Look, currently, Ashraf, I will tell you, you see ANC, as long as it wants to be relevant, let me also retaliate to what Comrade Supra has also already said. As long as you still have a million and millions of illegal foreigners mushrooming the country, some peddling drugs, some killing, some raping, some doing all manner of crime, but the ruling part, the ANC, doesn't care about them. Whereas you are having a judiciary, law enforcement, which is even supporting them, let alone your so-called human rights commission.
So, I'm going to move on because of time. I'm going to move on. I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. We're going to get to the news shortly, as you know, like a 5 to 4 news. So that's why. Here's another one. Ashraf, can you please invite the investigator O'Sullivan so that he can tell the nation why he's so much against General Mkhwanazi? He must... Okay, let me get that. Okay, well, I think you got the gist of that, right? By the way, we're going to talk about that with Action SA because they have an issue, a legal issue that they taking O'Sullivan to task. So that will come up just now. It also tells you that if you've missed the earlier conversation with Colin Malachi, well, don't miss it. But if you have, or you want to listen to it again and again and again and share it with your chummies, then go to the podcast because we have it, safm.coza, and we also have it, we've tweeted it out. So you just check it out, safm.coza, then podcast, then the National Pulse. You'll find all our conversations there. Right, so as you know, we are going to cross at about, exactly at 4 o'clock. There's a briefing on the criminal justice system inquiry. So before that, let's get the 4 o'clock news at 5 to 4. Here's Colafello.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories this hour: former municipal manager arrested in Magaqa case and diesel prices to rise, and good news for petrol users. Good afternoon. KwaZulu-Natal police have confirmed that a former municipal manager of the Umzimkhulu municipality has been arrested in connection with the 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaqa. Magaqa was a councillor in the municipality when gunmen opened fire on the vehicle he was in. Police spokesperson Atlenda Mate says the breakthrough by the KZN Political Killings Task Team come after gunmen Sibusiso Ngengwa pleaded guilty in the Pietermaritzburg High Court last month. Mate says the 55-year-old suspect is expected to appear in the Umzimkhulu Magistrates Court tomorrow.
The former municipal manager of the Umzimkhulu local municipality was arrested today in Malvern. He was previously arrested in 2018 alongside the late mayor of the Umzimkhulu local municipality, a businessman, 2 former police officers and a hitman.
Forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan has made a sworn statement rebutting claims made by Action SA parliamentary leader Athol Trollip. This follows criminal charges laid against him by Trollip. O'Sullivan says if the sworn statement is not attached to the criminal charge against him, he will lay a counter charge of defeating the ends of justice against Trollip. Trollip is accusing O'Sullivan of intimidating him and hindering him on his parliamentary oversight after he sent him a series of text messages calling him, and I quote, stupid. Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velonkosini Hlabisa has called for a more visibility of young women in the local government space. Hlabisa was speaking at the dialogue on the White Paper Review on Local Government in Ekurhuleni today. The White Paper Review was launched in May this year to emphasize the need for local government to adapt to a changing world. Today's dialogue afforded an opportunity for women and the youth to contribute to local government transformation. Hlabisa says the dialogue process will conclude on Thursday.
If you talk to women, you talk to people who support families, people who are the majority, and people who have been previously disadvantaged. I threw a challenge that we want to see more females, young females, not only belonging to the executive or being deputy mayors. We want to see them taking leadership as mayors of council, as speakers of council, while they are still youth.
The lawyer of a 37-year-old woman accused of kidnapping a 9-day-old baby from Bellville in Cape Town last month has welcomed the decision by the court to grant her bail. She appeared in the Bellville Magistrates Court on charges of kidnapping and defeating the administration of justice. Today, the infant has since been reunited with his mother. The accused has been granted bail of 4,000 rand. The case has been postponed to the 15th of October for further investigation. Asonge Kezwa Mafuye represents the accused.
I wouldn't say I expected the outcome, but you must remember it was a Schedule 1 offense. The accused had clean record. She had minor children. So I think the court looked into that and thought that it's in the best interest that bail be granted. So we accept the outcome of today.
And finally, diesel prices are expected to go up next month, while petrol users can expect a slight reprieve. This is according to the latest unaudited data from Central Energy Fund. The data shows both grades of diesel are expected to increase by between 62 and 63 cents a litre, depending on the grade. Notando Magudulela reports.
The retail price for eliminating paraffin is anticipated to tick up by 29 cents a litre. However, retail unleaded 95 and 93 petrol prices may decrease by around 29 cents.
Has been arrested in connection with the 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Makata. Headlines at 4:30 for SAFM News. I'm Kolofelo Tefo.
In sports this hour, Marumo Gallants face point deductions over clearance certificate saga, and Overton added to England's squad for fifth test against India. More details at 4:30.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, in fact, what we'll do, so we've played the news early for reasons that are obvious. There's the briefing on the criminal justice system inquiry, specifically the briefing being led by the acting Deputy Chief Justice Imbuyiseli Madlanga, briefing the nation on the criminal justice system inquiry. So we're going to take that now.
Umzimkhulu municipality has been arrested in connection with the 2017 murder of a former ANC.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Good afternoon and welcome to this very first media briefing of the Commission of Inquiry into criminality, political interference, and corruption in the criminal justice system. As you are aware, President Cyril Ramaphosa established the commission following allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi on 6 July 2025. Given the implications of the allegations, if proven, for the integrity of our country's criminal justice system and the significant public interest in the Commission's investigation, we believe that it is important to brief the South African public. As chairperson of the Commission, I wish to assure South Africans that the work of the Commission has commenced in earnest. To be specific, our first consultation with a witness is imminent. That consultation will help inform what further information the Commission must follow up on. We are mindful of the fact that South Africa is eager to see the first witness in the witness stand. We too are keen to see that happen and are acting with the necessary expedition to see it happen. That said, The fact that Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi made the allegations does not make us ready to start hearing evidence immediately. There must, as I said, first be consultations and assessment of the information we gather, and again, as I said, a follow-up for buttressing the information gathered should that be necessary. This may entail further consultations. We assure South Africans that we are treating the matter with the urgency that it deserves, and that the Commission hearings will commence as soon as the necessary initial steps to bring us to that stage have been finalized. We anticipate that will be during August 2025. What we also consider to be of importance to the public is the question of lodgement with the Commission by members of the public of information that is considered to be relevant to what the Commission is investigating. The procurement process to secure a building in Gauteng is underway. That process is also underway with regards to our other infrastructure requirements. The public will be advised of the premises and online facilities where they can lodge information as soon as this question of procurement has been finalized, which I trust will be soon. What we can say at this stage is that the Commission hearings will be in Gauteng. From the Commission's side, we are doing our utmost best to ensure that the procurement issue is resolved with expedition. The lack of infrastructure that I just referred to does not affect progress on the work of the Commission. We are proceeding with the Commission's preparatory work full steam ahead. First, that much is supported by what I said in the opening, which is that the first consultation has already been scheduled and will take place imminently. Second, appointments in respect of the higher level of professionals who are going to assist the Commission. Been selected based on their experience. I must next introduce them and my co-commissioners, and I will start with my co-commissioners who are seated there. And that side of our spokesperson is Advocate Ceci Baloyi, and that side of her is Advocate Sandile Khumalo. Did I say SC, SSC? Advocate Baloyi is Senior Counsel. And that side of her is Advocate Sandile Khumalo, SC. In introducing the members of the senior team assisting us, I will ask them. I first thought I would say that they must raise their hands, but now they have their backs to the media. So I will rather request them to stand up and face the media as I call their names, please. The Chief Evidence Leader, Advocate Terry Mutau, SC. Other evidence leaders, Advocate Matthew Shaskelson, who unfortunately is not with us here today, then Advocate Mahlapi Sillo, SC, Advocate Adila Hasim, SC, Advocate Lee Seagulls Ngube, Advocate Ufenze Mutlasedi, Advocate Thabang Powe, the Chief Investigator, Dr. Peter Goss, and the spokesperson, Jeremy Michaels, whom you've all seen. We believe that this team is up to the task and will deliver on the mandate. Regarding the timeline, we will conduct our work with a timeline in mind. Should the need arise for an extension, that is something we will address at the right time. And I underline here, should the need arise. We assume that those gathered here today are aware of the content of the terms of reference. Thus, we will not regurgitate them. A copy of the terms of reference will be distributed with this briefing. We will highlight only a few issues. The entities and persons that we must investigate are the South African Police Service, the Metro Police of the 3 Gauteng metros, the National Prosecuting Authority, the State Security Agency, the Judiciary, Correctional Services, any other institution in the criminal justice system, and any member of the executive responsible for the criminal justice system. These entities and persons are to be investigated in relation to infiltration of law enforcement, intelligence, and associated institutions within the criminal justice system by criminal syndicates. We also want to highlight the fact that by the end of the first 3-month period, we want to be in a position to submit an interim report which, if the evidence will have shown as much, will make recommendations regarding concrete action that needs to be taken. The rules of the Commission, which will govern its procedures, will be published in due course. As a general rule, the public will have access to the Commission hearings, which will also be live streamed. The default rule is that the media and public will be able to attend all hearings of the Commission, save as directed otherwise by the chairperson. One matter that is in the public domain, which is certainly of public interest, is litigation brought before the Constitutional Court challenging the establishment of the Commission, amongst others. Part of the relief sought is an interdict that the Commission processes should not go ahead. We will abide any decision made by the court, whether with regard to an interim interdict or the final relief that the court will grant. That is the end of the briefing. Thank you very much.
All right, members of the media, we're going to take questions. I think we'll take 5 at a time. Please identify yourself, your media house, and try to keep it tight. I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. There's a roving mic. Just use the mic, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Karen Moore from News 24. I'll just, in reference to terms of reference 15, the Commission shall ensure the protection of potential witnesses and witnesses. Are you not concerned? I mean, that's an extraordinary term of reference. I don't think it was part of Zondo. I think there's always an understanding that you will do the best that you can. But this seems to be quite a strong requirement of the Commission in circumstances where if the Lieutenant General's allegations are to be believed, you're dealing with organized crime. Is that not a concern, that you're placing yourself under that level of obligation? And then second of all, you mentioned that it is a default position for these hearings to be open, and there are certain exceptions made in regards to protection of witnesses and investigations, etc., etc. But with the Zondo inquiry, we saw that in relation to protection of witnesses, the in-camera element means that the witnesses just weren't identified. Can you clarify whether in the same circumstances we will still have access to that evidence? Will we still be able to hear the witness evidence and they just won't be identified? Or is there any scenario in which the media and the public is kept out of this inquiry entirely? Thank you.
All right, thanks, Karen. So, second hand there.
Good afternoon, Aaron here from Eyewitness News. Just two questions on my end. First and foremost, do we have a cost factor to this commission? How much is it going to cost, and has a budget been allocated to it? Are you aware of a figure yet? And the second one, I know we're still in early days here, and you said that the consultation with the first possible witness is imminent, but do you have a sort of figure to how many people are being called as witnesses to testify in this commission as of yet?
All right, thank you. Supermanda.
Supermanda Koke from EFCA, thank you very much. I'm covered.
All right. Lady at the back there.
I'm Zara Kruneval from SABC, and I've been covered as well. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
PwC from Newsroom Africa. In terms of 10.2 of the terms of reference, the power to conduct search and seizure operations subject to applicable law. And how are we going to go about that? Will it happen, in the commission? Given that the proceedings will be live streamed, are you not concerned about perhaps orders that you will give, which may notify people about search and seizures that you may conduct? And secondly, about the point, Karen touched on it a bit, in camera and protecting witnesses. What is the criteria that you're going to use there? Because people may want to give this commission information, but they may not necessarily be in danger. So what criteria are you going to use there? Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. We'll take it. Justice Madlanga will indicate who he wants to deal with what. Chair.
Just the terms of reference, please. Yes. The terms of reference must be interpreted in conjunction with the regulations which are close to being, in fact, interpreted in accordance with the provisions of the Act first, and then the regulations as well, which touch on that, as also the rules. If we look at Clause 15 of the Terms of Reference, the Commission shall ensure the protection of potential witnesses and witnesses. All proceedings may be held in public or in private as the chairperson deems necessary. We are, for example, in the process of crafting the Commission rules, and there we have mentioned, and we hope that this will become final. There we have a provision that says that on application to the chairperson, hearings may not be in public. That will be taking into account issues of the safety, amongst others, of witnesses. Then moving on to the question of there being no access at all. There are issues that will relate to, or possibly will relate to, matters of state security, even documents that should not readily serve in the public domain. With regard to those, it may well happen that there may not be access to those documents. But the idea, as much as possible, is to be transparent and make the South African public to have access to documents. And even regarding the point that I made earlier about applications being made to me as the chairperson, when someone does not want to testify in public, that is not something I will grant readily. I will look very closely at each and every application, bearing in mind the need for transparency, especially with regard to serious allegations like those that we have before us. So I will not readily just close access or opt for an option that makes the process not transparent. Then the question of the budget. It's very difficult to give specifics in this regard because the budget is provided by the government, and in law, the government department responsible for running commissions of inquiry is the Department of Justice. So details regarding the budget are best directed to the Department of Justice. And how many witnesses to call? It is early days. We cannot say at this stage. We have not even had the first consultation. It is the first consultation that will give us an idea of the ground that needs to be covered. But even after that first consultation, we will not be in a position to say, now, this is the sum total of the witnesses that we are going to, or rather the Commission is going to hear. The number of my cryptic notes, I can't even read them now. If I've skipped your question, you will maybe just raise it again. And regarding the question of searches and people being notified through the evidence that will be led that they are, so to speak, in the firing line, and thus thwarting whatever may otherwise have been achieved through search and seizure processes. Unfortunately, there is nothing we can do about that because evidence has to be given. And if, in a sense, that evidence tends to alert people that they may well be searched down the line, there is nothing we can do about that, because otherwise it would mean that no evidence should be led at all. And then criteria regarding the protection of witnesses. I think it's just a question of assessing the situation of each and every witness and deciding whether protection will be necessary. Thank you.
Okay, I trust that that covers those, but if there are follow-ups, please go for it. Karen, there's 1, 2, Linda. Any other questions? 3? We'll take a batch of 5. Okay, that seems to be it. Karen?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Just in response to that question about the protection of witnesses, is it not an innate difficulty of this process, which is essentially dealing with allegations that actually impugn the very people that you would normally turn to for protection of witnesses? So do you now have a scenario in which you potentially going to have to get private security, or what are you, or you know, like, what do you do in those circumstances? And then I'm going to just sneak in a question. Sorry, Jeremy. Would we be correct in assuming that the first witness that you're talking about is actually Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, seeing as this inquiry is built on his evidence or his claims in the public domain? Would that be a good? Thank you.
All right, that's one.
Okay, so one of my questions was what Karen has just asked, but secondly, given that we don't know what we're dealing with or the scope of work that the commission will undertake, are the president's timelines realistic? The timelines of 3 and 6 months, are they realistic given that we don't know at this point what we're dealing with? Thank you.
All right, thanks. I think there was here we go.
Good afternoon, Kosnati Shazi from Power FM News. My question is also on the time frame issue. So earlier today, the Office of the Presidency gave an update saying that they are implementing the recommendations of the state capture. Now, of course, state capture was established in 2018. We are now in 2025, and government is still implementing some of those recommendations. Is this a realistic timeline for the wheels of justice to turn in this particular commission? They often say justice delayed is not justice denied, but do we honestly, realistically see arrest or action happening maybe in the coming years and not even in the coming months? Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Nkosinati. Chair, how would you like to handle them?
Regarding the first question on who is to protect witnesses that need to be protected, let me say that it's a subject that was raised with me only yesterday. It's a matter that is receiving serious consideration because of exactly the issue that you raise about can the witnesses be protected by the same people, or at least some of whom are implicated. Let me say that in the discussions that we are having, I believe that we will come up with a practical and acceptable solution. And on who the first, or rather, did you say the first witness or the witness we are going to consult with? My imminent... to the same thing. I think I should just be open with the South African public and say that the imminent consultation that I referred to is going to be with Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. But regarding who the first witness will be, we are not able to say at this stage. One has no idea what the consultation will lead to. So we are not able to. Yes, to people out there, and because the terms of reference refer to Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi in so many words, the assumption will be that he just must be the first witness. Well, indications are that he may well be, but we cannot tie ourselves to a position that says, yes, he's definitely going to be the first witness. We cannot tell at this early stage. That's something that will depend on what the consultations, investigations yield. And the timelines, the 6-month period for completing the work of the commission. Let me be upfront and say, just looking at the allegations that were made on the 6th of July, they seem to cover quite a wide spectrum, and in consultations and investigations are likely to yield a lot more than what was referred to in the allegations of the 6th of July. So the timelines, I must say, do appear to be quite tight. But whether or not we will be able to finalize our work within that period, standing here, all I will say is we will do our work with the terms of reference in mind. If we do not finalize the work, well, the terms of reference do foresee that themselves, because they say we will apply for an extension if we want to, or if we get to that stage. And then the last question is, are we going to see arrests at the end of the process? If I was able to say yes, I think there would not have been a need for an inquiry at all. So I don't think I can give a categorical answer in that regard. That's the lot. Thank you.
All right. Are there any more questions? Members of the media? Going once?
Okay, and that's we wrap up with that last voice with Jeremy Michaels, who's the spokesperson for the commission. You're probably going to hear lots more from him, I think, in the months ahead anyway. But I mean, the key person whose voice you've heard more than anybody else in that period, setting the tone really in terms of what's expected, the acting Deputy Chief Justice Mbuyiseni Madlanga, effectively giving us a sense of what's expected, the timelines, and what they want to do. And perhaps we may have a chance of talking to you about that too and getting further reaction. But right now, first things first, for 30 years of news headlines with Kolofelo.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. In the Machabeng municipality has launched an investigation into alleged corruption regarding the expanded public works program. The probe will take place over the period of 14 days. KZN police have confirmed that a former municipal manager of the Umzimkhulu municipality has been arrested in connection with the 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaqa. And further afield, the UN's Human Rights Office has urged Iran to abolish the death penalty after more than 600 reported executions so far this year. Greg Hose has the details at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Randburg queuing towards Malibongwe Drive, and the M1 southbound has a crash reported before Xavier Street. In KZN, the N2 northbound queuing towards Queen Nandi Drive, South Coast Road is where track congestion is reported in the Rosberg area, so expect delays. And Umgeni Road northbound, slow moving at Simiso Kwanyana Road. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Plattekloof Hill, Montague Drive is queuing at Freedom Way, and Swartklip Road in Khayelitsha, slow moving at Govan Beki Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, you've got some significant news ahead of the new season and who's going to actually be playing there or not, right?
Yeah, Maruma Gallants could face a points deduction over the registration of midfielder Monde Mpambaniso. Cape Town City won an arbitration case claiming that Mpambaniso wasn't properly cleared from Luruma United. Now, the PSL disciplinary committee will now investigate, and if Gallants are found guilty, they could lose points from matches where Mpambaniso played 26 out of 28 games, and this could open the door for Cape Town City to be reinstated to the top flight after being relegated in the recent playoffs. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs head coach Nasruddin Nabi says that pre-season matches are just for preparations and results don't matter. This is after Chiefs lost on penalties in the Toyota Cup friendly match against Ghanaian Giants Asante Kotoko, and Nabi says that he feels the team has improved, especially in terms of quality, but they still room for improvement.
C'est vrai, on a voulu donc de faire plaisir pour les supporters, pour le Toyota Cup. Ça reste toujours un match amical. On a voulu gagner.
I would say that that is the second Toyota Cup that we play, but we believe that from last season to today, we have improved. Our team has improved, although there is some areas that we need as well to work on more. Today was a friendly game. We would have loved to win it, and we did everything to win it. Unfortunately, we we didn't, but we believe that we are in the right direction going forward to the league.
In cricket, England have added fast bowling all-rounder Jamie Overton to their squad for this year's decisive fifth test against India at the Oval. The return of the paceman is the only change to the group from Old Trafford, where India on Sunday escaped with a draw after batting for 5 sessions and 143 overs. Ben Stokes' men have been in pole position to move into an unassailable 3-1 lead in the 5-match series after taking a first innings lead of 311. In motorsport, McLaren boss Andrea Stella says that teammates Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris are racing like champions, and the Formula One title will probably be decided by fine margins and individual brilliance. Now, the pair are 16 points apart in a 2-horse race, with Australian Piastri leading McLaren's 6-1-2 of the season in Belgium yesterday and taking his 6th win of the campaign. Red Bull's Max Verstappen is third, but 81 points behind, with his hopes of a 5th successive title fast receding. There are still 11 races left, and the intra-team rivalry will be the major focus, with McLaren set to retain the constructors' crown with ease, as they now have a massive 268 points clear of second place Ferrari. Finally, South African road running star Glenrose Xaba is gunning for her 3rd Spa Women's Grand Prix 10-kilometer title. This is after rewriting national history yet again. The 29-year-old shattered Ilana Meyer's long-distance 21-kilometer national record by clocking 1 hour and 10.03 seconds at the Athletics South Africa Road Running Championships in Palabora. And Meyer's previous record was 1 hour 10.44 seconds that stood since 1999. In terms of now, with another national milestone under her belt, she's more motivated than ever to defend her Grand Prix crown.
So I can say that it's very motivation to me when it's to break the greatest records that was had the greatest athletes like Elana Meyer. I can say yes, because I'm looking forward to have a good race when it comes to Spa season, because I'm looking to have that title that can motivate our blacks and the black women and the outcoming athletes, that they can achieve anything when it comes to Spa. Is where I started to run my road running. So I can say to win it will be the motivation to outcome ones.
So just a thought, Ashraf, before I leave, thinking that perhaps PSL needs to get to a point where they say if you have any form of grievance or want to complain about something, there has to be a cut-off time, because this is crazy. The league is about to start, and there's a high chance that points will be deducted from Marumo Gallants, and Cape Town City might just be part of the Betway Premiership.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're right? But the problem is, like, if there's a legal challenge, and, you know, countries have constitutions and how they operate within the legal framework, and if they have a legal challenge that works, whereas an illegitimate player means effectively that team is null and void on the day, then they do have a case. The problem is, this sounds like a long time, but maybe 3-4 months is not a long time. By the way, I can't remember it right now, and maybe you can Google it and somebody can call in and tell me. There was a relay where South Africa didn't win a medal, and whoever won the medal, there was an issue. This is fairly recent, right? Around some charge, and maybe it could be a doping charge or whatever. And they got the medals like 20 years later. And I'm serious. 20 years later. So these things happen. On the more humorous side, there was one game that we played, football, when we were lighties, and
you used to play football.
Yeah, we were so upset because that last goal was offside, and we complained all the time it was blatantly offside. But of course the family said, but what is the score of the game? It's like, actually we lost 10-0, but that last goal was offside. That was our biggest gripe. It should have been 9-0.
Well, one thing for sure is that Cape Town City does not want to be relegated, so it'll be interesting to see.
The stakes are high, naturally. Well, look, put it this way, it sounds very sour, but if they have a legitimate case that a team has fielded ineligible players, then they have a legitimate case.
They do.
And if that means 3 points deducted, that goes to another team. That's why the rules are put in place. It doesn't sound nice, but it's exactly that.
Well, I'll definitely keep a close eye on this one and inform our listeners. I'll have more in the next hour.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer,
Think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Have you recently migrated to the new TV licenses payment website? Make sure your account stays active by registering again or resetting your password. Don't miss out on all the fantastic new features our brand new website offers. Get registered today and stay connected with us. With the new website, get your payments done quickly and hassle-free with a wide range of services. So make sure you register to take advantage of all the great client features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV licenses. Do it for the things that matter.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, let's get to those numbers. As always, it's Monday. Paswane Mpatlele with me, Senior Accounts Manager at Markway Fund Managers. Right, you got news to update us on locally and globally. But first up, Valterra Platinum. Tell me about that.
It's the Platinum guys, there's a Platinum group, and they reflected on their first half performance. It's more of a characterized as a performance that can be seen as very resilient during operational disruptions they faced. We can see through those, the EBITDA numbers were down 46% and the profits as per headline earnings down 81%. They were affected by demerger costs, but also the floodings that happened in their Limpopo operations, which had a negative influence on the outcome of PGM output down 12%. Sales were also down 25%. They did deliver some efforts of cost saving that did help offset the inflationary pressures, and unit costs were lower that helped support some margin pressure. But generally, it was not good earnings. But however, investors are forward looking, and therefore they're looking at a report going forward that the guys are in an upcycle and they didn't sell off the stock heavily. Into the markets in general, we're seeing less data markets. Generally, market sentiment is focused on tariff deadlines. The European Union and the US struck a trade agreement framework, which involves a 15% on tariff. But the lack of details did continue to put uncertainty around market players. But the deal in general is still viewed as a bad deal for Europe, considering its size and its trade relationship with the US. And we've seen through the euro being lower, dollar holds higher as they continue to wait for new negotiation terms against China that are taking place this week. Plus, we heard that Trump is putting on a global baseline tariff of around 15 to 20%. Which continues to support the dollar, but puts the likes of gold under pressure at $3,305 an ounce, but still above that 3,000 level, and it remains bullish as investors continue to worry about the ongoing risks that's generally existing in the market from a growth and inflation perspective. We also on the geopolitical front, Trump says he's giving Russia less than 2 weeks to reach if they don't reach agreement, there will be more sanctions and penalties, and this continues to put some worry back in the market. Oil prices have rebounded by 1% at $69.10 a barrel as we wait for more trade deals to be taking place. Bitcoin holds a holding pattern at 118,000. And just to close in on those markets, U.S. markets, the Nasdaq is up 0.3 ahead of those major tech earnings being supportive. JSE is down 0.4. As our industrials were down 0.5 along with the resource sector. Europe is generally versed its gains, and just more major markets are down, with the CAC down 0.4 and DAX down 0.8. And with a stronger dollar, the rand is feels pressure at 17.87 against the rand. Is rand against the euro 28 and rand against the pound 23.99.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Okay. So lots to consider based on all the conversations we've been having. Firstly, that chat with Colin Malachi about the ANC Youth League and saying that where is the representativity? Where are the white leadership within the ANC Youth League and the coloured and the Indian? And that's what he said. And you can listen to that podcast. But of course, I know you have lots to say about it. So feel. Right. We also spoke about the Sudan and the ongoing problems there around this parallel government. And again, listen to that podcast and comment, please do. Then, of course, we took in live the briefing, the media briefing regarding the state inquiry, and that's a big one, the criminal justice state system inquiry, right? So, of course, there'll be comment on that, I'm sure about it, right? And there's more to come, right? But for now, let's talk about some of the plans from Action SA. They've gazetted their notice to introduce the Constitution 22nd Amendment Bill. Now, that may sound like confusing or nothing to you. Let me explain. If passed, it would represent the most significant overhaul of the executive of 32 ministers and 43 deputy ministers. We've got that. We've got 32 ministers and 43 deputy ministers. Now, they want to change all of that. There's also their plans regarding Paul O'Sullivan. So let's get to first things first regarding the deputy ministers with Action SA's parliamentary leader, Athol Trollip. Athol, appreciate your time as always on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Thanks for your time, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Okay, so I get it. 32 ministers, 43 deputies. The maths just doesn't work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The maths doesn't work, and we've got a president who's been promising us for years now that he's going to reduce the size of cabinet. And once again, 2 weeks ago, he did the exact opposite. He went and found an academic from outside of Parliament to fill in the gap whilst the Minister of Police is on special leave. So we just see our cabinet getting bigger and bigger. We believe that we should be getting rid of all the positions of deputy ministers. There are countries much bigger than ours with a bigger population and bigger economy that run their affairs with no more than 20 ministers. We believe we could easily do that in this country. We'd be much leaner, much meaner, more effective. And we've seen with deputy ministers, they have no real executive authority. Their mandate really is to be all men and women for their ministers. We've seen it now with the police minister being placed on special leave. The president didn't have confidence in either of the two deputy ministers of police to appoint them as caretaker ministers. So he appointed Feroz Kachalia, which is our biggest case. He makes our case for us that deputy ministers are there for all intents and purposes for political patronage and repayment for participation in governments, and they have no real action or executive authority.
So seriously, what authority and action do these deputy ministers have? And we're talking across the board, notwithstanding your point about the Minister of Police, because you mentioned the two deputies. Yes, also even in the caretaker period, meaning this period of the last 10 days or so, even then we've had Gwede Mantashe as the acting Minister of Police. So none of the two above that you mentioned, right? But just give us an insight. What do deputy ministers really do?
Well, I can't really tell you. I've been a member of Parliament all told now for about years. I have no real idea what they do, because whenever you ask them questions, they just refer the questions to the minister. They have no executive authority, so they can't make decisions. And for all intents and purposes, I believe that they're redundant. Our political party, Action SA, believes that we should have no more than 20 ministers with no deputy ministers. That's in our constitution, that's in our manifesto. So that's where we stand. And we believe that we could save the taxpayers at least 1.5 billion rand annually if we got rid of the deputy minister positions. And we've seen during our GNU tracker monitoring of this new government that the deputy ministers have spent almost half of the money that's been spent in total in traveling overseas. They've spent nearly 200 million rand, deputy ministers. That means that they haven't got a hell of a lot to do at home, so they spend their time globe-trotting and collecting Voyager miles.
Okay, so that's your case for dropping the deputy ministers. You're now taking it a step further in terms of a legal change. What's the plan?
Yeah, so we've got a number of cases in this constitutional proposal. The other one is for when the president identifies who he wants to have serve on his cabinet, that there should be a parliamentary review committee that reviews those candidates, and if any of them are found to be wanting, for example, we have a minister in Thembi Simelane who had received a dodgy loan from VBS Bank, and when this was brought to the president's attention after her appointment, after a few months he simply moved her from justice to home affairs or to housing. And we believe that she shouldn't even be a minister. She doesn't qualify. If you have a cloud of corruption hanging over your head, you shouldn't be appointed as a minister. We heard Justice Zondo just this weekend saying that it pained him to have to swear in ministers and deputy ministers that he had cast judgment on in the Zondo Commission. So, we need leadership that is beyond reproach, exemplary, ethical leadership. And we believe that the president can choose who he wants, but it must go through some kind of vetting process. That's the other provision of our constitutional amendment. And then lastly, that we are able as Parliament to bring emotional no confidence against the minister. At the moment, the only provision is for emotional no confidence against the president. And if that is successful, then the whole cabinet loses their position with the president. We want to be able to go after a minister like the Minister of Higher Education in Kabane, who lied to Parliament. We should have been able to remove her through a vote of no confidence, but there's no provision for that now. So we believe we're bringing something fundamentally important to Parliament, and we'll test those political parties who for years have been calling for a smaller cabinet, but who now make part of the biggest cabinet ever in South African history.
Okay, so what that is the actual plan in terms of the legal challenge. What I'm saying to you, you're tabling this in Parliament. You want to have a change, but I'm looking at it from a practical point of view. Who is going to support you?
Well, I think a number of the opposition parties will support us. Clearly, people in the GNU that hold multiple ministerial positions and deputy minister positions might not do that. But we'll remind them of their positions over the years about serving in a bloated cabinet and what size that cabinet should be. And also, if they don't vote for it, it's going to be very difficult. I must say, Ashraf, it's a massive uphill battle to get this passed in Parliament because it will require a 2/3 majority. And if it doesn't pass, we at least will be able to show the public where their political representatives and their parties stand on having a profligate government that just spends money as they wish without any consideration for our fiscus. We've seen that this year's budget iteration took 3 efforts to get it passed and nearly didn't pass at the last hurdle because the DA was making all sorts of threats about pulling out. So we actually need to start seeing a government that respects taxpayers and respects its citizens, and we need a much meaner government, more accountable, closer to the people, more accountable to Parliament and to the President.
Okay. I mean, the other thing which I thought about, which maybe this time around has been played out to a degree because of the GNU, which is that even outside of that, I mean, can we ever get to a situation where, let's say, even if one party gets the 50% plus one, okay, let's say historically it would have been the ANC up to now, right? But if you have like 5 other parties with, 10, that as opposed to the discretionary powers of the president, that in fact all those parties at least get that percentage of a seat on the cabinet anyway? Is that part of Action SA's thoughts or not?
Look, as far as we're concerned, we would only serve in the cabinet that has been cut down by size, and my president has said we won't even consider serving in a cabinet that has multiple deputy minister positions. Our position is clear on that. We do understand and respect that with the separation of powers, that the president gets to appoint who he wants to serve on cabinet. But there are other democracies in the world where there is parliamentary oversight of those candidates that the president chooses. And we just believe that there should be some parliamentary oversight of those candidates too, so that we don't end up with the kind of people that Judge Zondo referred to, that when he said it pained him to have to swear them in.
Well, just lastly on that one, what sort of timelines are we expecting from now to an actual vote?
It's going to be a long time, Ashraf. It's open now for a month where the public can make comment, and then it'll go to a portfolio committee that's been given, that the Speaker will refer it to a specific portfolio committee to consider our representations. And then, it can't come into effect ex post facto. So those people who are currently serving as deputy ministers would serve out their term of office, and it would, for all intents and purposes, come into effect in the next administration. So like any good battles in opposition, they take a long time. It's a battle of the long haul, and it's a battle that we're prepared to take on for the good of South Africa.
Okay, let's move on to the other issue, and he's called Paul O'Sullivan. There's an action plan against him.
Look, I mean, we were all shocked, I believe. If you read the national mood, General Mkhwanazi made a statement in KZN almost 2 weeks ago now and made certain very grave allegations against the Minister of Police, hence him being put on special leave and the President calling a commission of inquiry. Hot on the heels of that press conference, we had Paul O'Sullivan making all sorts of allegations of his own about Mkhwanazi and other police officers. And I went on social media and on my Twitter account, and I said, first of all, I don't know who's appointed Paul O'Sullivan, the spokesperson for the police, but he seems to have anointed himself as the spokesperson of South African safety and security. And I said that he's inveigled his way into a very prominent position around policing in South Africa, and I don't understand what that position is. But what I do know is that Mkhwanazi and Sullivan's allegations need to be investigated very urgently, because he can't just run around making untested allegations, and neither can Mkhwanazi. So, I'm a public representative. My job is to ask questions, and I'm asking those questions, and I'm putting them to the authorities in Parliament, but also on the social media ether.
Okay, so what untested allegations has Paul O'Sullivan made that so galled you and your party?
Well, I can't even remember everything, but he calls Mkhwanazi a criminal, and he says he's the worst criminal ever to wear a uniform. But that's not really my problem. My problem is that he started harassing me and sending me threatening letters because of my Twitter postings, and saying that he's going to take me down. I'm his next target, and once he's got rid of Mkhwanazi and some other police officer is going to come after me. He says I'm a criminal. The fact that I'm supporting Mkhwanazi makes me a criminal in his book. Well, I never ever supported Mkhwanazi. I just think his allegations need to be investigated urgently. And then he went on and he started threatening me and my party and also my president. And I'm simply not going to take that lying down. It's a very serious crime to threaten a member of parliament and prevent him from doing his work, which is what Paul O'Sullivan has done. So I went to the police station today to lay criminal charges against him. I'm not going to be bullied by Paul O'Sullivan. He might throw his weight around with other people, but he's not going to get it right with me, and I'm not going to take these allegations lying down, or his insults, or his threats. They're offensive to me, they're offensive to my party, and they're certainly very offensive to my family.
Okay, so just to confirm then, the basis of the charge that you've laid against him is what? You charge against
intimidation and threatening behavior and intimidation.
Okay, and just for now, not acting as the spokesperson for the police ministry, right? I got that. Athol Trollip, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Lots to consider coming out of all of that, both on the charges against Paul O'Sullivan. We've obviously offered him to speak today. He said he's too busy with other things. He can't talk. He doesn't want to talk. And also that earlier conversation about cutting, not one or two, but the entire list of 43. Can you believe it? I mean, maybe we've forgotten. We've got 32 ministers, which is already huge. It was enlarged because of the GNU to accommodate all of them. And then 43 deputy ministers. And the Action SA is saying that's unacceptable. Where do you stand on that? You may differ with Action SA on other issues, but cut out the ideological differences. Practically, do they have a point or not? Well, you're on the pulse. I need to feel it. Let's hear you after this.
The Morning Brief.
What do you know about the killing of Xolesega Lali?
I must say that it has been a sad day for our movement to lose such a young leader who has devoted a lot of his time in serving that community. And that's why we, as the ANC in the province, we condemn the killing of councillors and this perpetuation of killing of councillors, because this is not the first councillor that has been killed. There have been many councillors that have been killed in the province. There's one councillor who was killed in Bashe municipality. There were two councillors in this term that were killed in Nelson Mandela Metropolitan Municipality. Hence, we are making this strong call that law enforcement agencies must dig deep in all these killings and to find out who are the root causes, who are behind, who are those people are sitting in back rooms.
That's Gift Ngondi, Eastern Cape ANC Provincial Head of Communications.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Well, your question of Mohlafeli saying, Ashraf, please bring O'Sullivan on the show next time. Surely if he can make statements about other people, then surely he can answer questions about them. In fact, as I said just now, we invited him to come on the show today. He's like, no, thank you. That may change. Of course, if it changes, would love to, get him to share his thoughts on the National Pulse.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Mcede here in Kala. Ashraf, some political parties who accuse themselves as liberators while they have made it worse for people have met this weekend. They claim to try to look for opportunities around the world to improve lives of poor people and to create jobs. When did they notice the inequality they have caused to people? Is it after they have corrupted the countries with their unjust laws and lot of corruption, I think the credit.
Okay, I got that. You've asked the question. We're going to just move on to others because we're going to get on to news. Here's another one.
Afternoon, Ashraf and the SFM listeners. Yes, man, indeed, that character has been lost within the ANC, and I think it goes without with time as well as to what has been the focus of the ANC and how has this been the recruitment been done in terms of the branches itself. And you do that same question in terms of faith leaders and professionals within the ANC that are actively participating from branch level up to NEC level. Then that will address this issue of the racial issue.
Okay, got that. And here's another.
Hi, Ashraf. This is Duma from Joburg. All these NC guys that are coming on radio and TV and everywhere, they're all claiming to be cleaning corruption. Actually, all of them, they're claiming there is corruption, they're cleaning corruption. So if all they're saying they're cleaning corruption, then who are they cleaning then? Because it looks like they're all clean. So actually, I don't understand this. You can't clean something without proving that you have cleaned here and there and there. There's nothing that they're doing. They must stop lying. They're acting saints. They're all fucking corrupt. Sorry about the strong word. They're all corrupt.
Aish, man. Aish. That's all I can say. Don't do that. But your views, your strong views, well, they're welcome because we certainly need to hear what people are thinking and what they're saying here nationwide. And I do say this. Of course, we've had people calling and say the real national dialogue is here on SFM, not just this show, but listen to the station and you'll get a good sense of what people are thinking and feeling every single day. Not in Cape Town, not in Durban or Tekwini, not in Joburg, the three big metros, but in fact the entire length and breadth of the nation, including the three biggest cities or metros of our country. Right, we're going to talk about mining and human rights and issues around that coming up in a moment or so. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Probe into public works program in the Free State and a call on Iran to abolish the death penalty. Good day to you. The Machabeng municipality in the Free State has launched a probe into alleged corruption regarding the expanded public works program. The program was stopped following reports that politically connected individuals in the municipality are receiving inflated salaries through it. Municipal Mayor Tanit Kalipa.
We commit ourselves and we're happy that the minister has taken a decision that there must be an investigation. We welcome that. But where we are not quite happy is for the minister just to make that decision of suspending this program. But we can commit our people that they will get their salary for this month because already processes they have been done. And once the investigation has been done within that 14 days, they don't need to panic.
Police have confirmed that a former municipal manager of the Zumkulu municipality in KwaZulu-Natal has been arrested in connection with the 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary-General Sindisa Makaka. He was a councillor in the municipality when gunmen opened fire on the car he was travelling in. Police spokesperson Atlenda Mate.
The former municipal manager of the Mzumkulu local municipality was arrested today in Malvern. He was previously arrested in 2018 alongside the late mayor of the Mzumkulu local municipality, a businessman, 2 former police officers and a hitman.
The case against Tiffany Meek, accused of killing her 11-year-old son Jaden Lee Meek, has been postponed to tomorrow for a judgment on her bail application in the Roodepoort Magistrates Court west of Johannesburg. The state prosecutor submitted that Meek killed her son, tried to cover it up and shouldn't be granted bail. Her defense lawyer is Novan Naidu.
The applicant does not even possess a passport, Your Worship, and should not be considered a flight risk. The applicant does not even have the means to relocate outside of South Africa. The court should also consider that the applicant is a first offender. She has no previous convictions and no other pending matters. And this makes her a suitable candidate for bail.
Shareholders of the MTN Black Economic Empowerment Scheme, Zakhele Futhi, can expect payment on their investments from today as part of the scheme's unwind. MTN has announced that shareholders will receive 20 Rand a share in cash from the scheme, with a further payout expected at a later stage. The scheme was launched in 2016 to boost black ownership in MTN, but the return is noted as underwhelming, with investors only getting back what they invested. Belinda Makumwana is the board chairperson of MTN Zakhele Futhi.
Geopolitical issues that MTN in various jurisdictions where they have a presence, they have experienced some challenges. We know the experience in Nigeria, that Nigeria, while being one of their biggest markets, has also experienced some turbulence, which has impacted the share price. We know that there was recent, inflation-related issues in Ghana, for example, which is also a larger market for them. And recently, issues in Iran, where that was the most recent that impacted MTN because, they have a presence there.
The UN's human rights officers urged Iran to abolish the death penalty after more than 600 reported executions so far this year. It says minority groups are disproportionately targeted. The spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry, Ismail Bagay.
The death penalty is recognized under Iran's domestic laws for a range of the most serious crimes. It is also accepted in many other countries. That said, our judiciary is striving to limit the use of this punishment to only the most severe crimes.
The top story, the Machebeng municipality in the Free State has launched a probe into alleged corruption regarding the expanded public works program. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
In sports this hour, Marumo Gallants face points deduction over clearance certificate saga. Overton added to England's squad for fifth test against India, and Osaka splits with coach. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12, R24 westbound in Bedfordview, queuing on both routes towards Kilulis Interchange. The N3 southbound in Edenvale, queuing towards Linksfield Road, and the N3 northbound, queuing towards Buccleuch Interchange. In KZN, the N2 northbound, queuing towards Queen Nandi Drive, the R102 southbound, queuing towards the M25 Commercial Highway, and on the M7, truck congestion reported at South Coast Road, so expect delays. In Cape Town, Campground Road is slow-moving between the Cricket Stadium and Main Road, Strand Road eastbound in Stikland, slow-moving near the R300 highway, and Baden-Powell Drive in Khayelitsha has sand reported on the carriageway at Monwabisi Beach, so please approach with caution. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Think you cannot afford a lawyer? Think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So what do you make of that briefing on the criminal justice system we've just had earlier on? Because we'll get reaction from that, amongst others, from the South African Policing Union as well, and their spokesperson. That comes up. But of course, you can give your general thoughts on that, as well as everything else we've spoken about today. I mean, come on, get it off your chest, and perhaps even things that we haven't spoken about as yet. Right, let's talk about an important issue. It may sound, obscure to you if I say, have you heard about the Tailings Conference? Well, if I then tell you it looks at issues around mining and human rights and human rights abuses within that all-important industry in South Africa, just perhaps you may have a closer interest in that, isn't it? So let's talk about it. So this year's conference, the Tailings Conference, underway now in Parktown, Joburg. The theme is Reform and Resistance in the Shadow of a Disaster. Right, we've got two guests who will talk us through all of that. Firstly, Hassan Lorgat, we chat to him often as a caller, but he's got lots of other things that he does in the mining space. He's the Tailings Working Group and Program Convener. Hassan, it's always good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Much appreciated. And we also have Advocate Sandra Makwasha, who's the Commissioner at the South African Human Rights Commission. Advocate Makwasha, I appreciate your time on the National Pulse.
For inviting us over.
Thank you. Right, Hassan, let me start with you. I mean, so let's talk about this. And you, I know you've chatted about issues on mining often on various shows on SAFM. But when we say reform and resistance in the shadow of a disaster, please help us understand what are we talking about.
Ashraf, the country and you as a convener of national dialogues and conversations, and that you always hear people saying, critical minerals will put us into a new clean green energy and move us ahead. And you hear the ministers responsible for digital technology, the president, everyone talking about AI and AI generated things like that. But very few of them talk about what is the end product, what is the waste of that. In fact, one of our speakers here from Canada basically said mining is a waste producing machinery. The product that it wants, a diamond or so, is the small thing. All the mess, the tailings, the disasters that it does, the water that you need to mine, all that is the bigger part of the work. But the small thing that a few people will buy is the byproduct, So what we wanted to do, again, the second year, I remember last year speaking to you in June. Mm-hmm. We actually trying to raise focus on this man-made phenomenon, which is tailings. In fact, where in some of the adverts they talk about diamonds is forever, actually tailings are forever. You have to manage it, but you can't manage it and then it's an afterthought. Think of how the poor people get involved, and then they should say, hey, run, here's the dam is bursting. It happened in Jagersfontein. We spoke to Rio Rita the other day, and she said it was through prayer that her head was above the sludge when she was shifted 12 kilometers from the mine. So that community is present here in this discussion to talk about justice.
Okay.
But so we're trying to link the mining bill that is currently for discussion. We're trying to link that with critical minerals to see what we do. But in the shadow of all this as well, it will be 3 years of Jagersfontein, and the community has not received the report about what happened to them, how they can be compensated, because they have become more poorer. Because if you remember, 2022 just came after COVID. This community is devastated. And when we have a national dialogue, we ask, why is it that our government ignores what the Human Rights Commission did? It's hearing. They did hearings with us in 2018, right? Which found out what the mining affected communities want. And the government has not responded to that. Now they want to spend money to have another dialogue. I'll throw that book at them to say, answer these things. And DMR, can you come to these meetings and not hide away? Because they are absent when real dialogues have to take place.
Okay.
Now when it's a jamboree, they want to come.
All right. We're certainly going to get the Human Rights Commission's input in a second. But before that, Hassan, let me understand this. I mean, there's the issue of mining, there's the issue of minerals and mineral resources that the country needs, and hopefully to be able to extract that and to to hopefully sell it off in some form or the other to bring in much needed revenue and growth for the country in a country with massive unemployment, right? On the one hand. On the other hand, you have the issue of the workers, that people that work the mines, and whether they are earning the type of keep they need or whether they're being exploited and their safety. And the third part that you've made the point about talking about now, mining is a waste-producing machinery. But in the mining, there are lots of other issues that come up, including its contribution to a very negative environment. Now, with all that considered then, what then would be a win-win solution there? Because I'm trying to think, is it a case of choose one and not the other? If you don't mine and you don't exploit the earth, then there's no problem. But clearly, can we really do that?
Yeah, Ashraf, I'll send you the poem that I wrote, because the minister tried to almost juxtapose clean air or electricity. I mean, you can't have those kind of choices, because without air and without water, you can't live. So it can't be a choice between life or death, this kind of thing. And then the other ethical question that you must ask is that should some communities in Mpumalanga die earlier because they're giving us electricity? So there are a number of ethical questions we must ask, and what the pace is. Of course, Africa needs electrification. It's the unelectrified, but mostly South Africa's got most of the electrification. What we need to do is to find ways where they can be genuinely what you say is a win-win situation.
So what are those ways for you? I mean, seriously, what are the ways?
Mining as it is, Ashraf. I keep saying this to people, to colleagues that I speak to in the Minerals Council and elsewhere. The thing I keep telling them, show me a community that is better off because of mining. They can't do that to you. They can tell you, yeah, in your cell phone, your cobalt is used, et cetera, et cetera. But show me a community that has been resettled so that mining takes place. We actually say, shit, look how much better we are. Not one community. In other parts of the world, they can show us that. So the point is, when we rush into this new minerals, we should start thinking, what is going to happen to our water supplies? What is going to happen to the air? And then how can we, that is the win-win for me. If they can find an answer to that, then we are win-winning.
Okay.
But I don't want to be dead.
Let me bring in Advocate Sandra Makwasha, the Commissioner for the South African Human Rights Commission. I mean, you've clearly heard what Hassan Lorga had to say. Perhaps I'll put this to you. Show me a community that is better off because of mining. Are you in concert with him that, in fact, mining comes at a massive price where what is extracted is the denial of human rights and infringes on their own rights as human beings?
Yes, I am in concert with him that, of course, by the very nature of mining, it's an extractive industry which has particular implications for human rights. But how it's done in South Africa results often in human rights violations. And we've looked over 30 years that there has not been a community that says, once a mining company has left our community, we were better off, we were skilled, we have better improvement. And as Hassan has said, there are communities such as in Mpumalanga that are facing that various human rights violations so that the rest of South Africa and the rest of the world can benefit from that extraction.
So therefore, I mean, what then is the South African human rights position? Let's say going into this the Tailings Conference. I mean, you have a position. There are other realities, as we've already discussed, that every reality for certain people is their priority. What is your position on that?
The Human Rights Commission is re-emphasizing its 2016 report in terms of the underlying socioeconomic challenges in mining affecting communities. So we're having that. But we're also hearing from community members that are directly affected, such as by mine wastage, on how they want to see the bill being the comments made to the bill, which the Commission is working on, and we will be submitting our submissions regarding the bill. And we are quite disappointed that currently the recommendations in our 2016 report remain silent or are not reflective in that bill.
What about, Hassan, if I can bring you in as well, let's go. One of the issues that you've that the report talks about is the issue of the Zama-Zamas and how they've been sort of wrongly defined. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, Ashraf, we will be fooling ourselves to believe that there's not an aspect of criminality, both with the men in suits and the men in overalls. Because a lot of who's buying these minerals that are coming from the informal miners? So the bill tries to formalize this, but I think its major intent is to try and say that we are losing 40, 60 odd billion through so-called illegal mining, right? And of course, if you consider Mbeki report of illicit financial flows, which doesn't come from illegal miners, comes from formal business people and corporations. So what I'm saying to you, yes, they're trying to meet this, but the intention is to stem what they think is wrong. In other countries, artisanal mining exists even before formal mining. Apartheid killed that and brought in, agribusiness and all those kind of big machinery people and deep mining. From colonialism, actually, mining was the reason why they were here. So for me, yes, in some ways, people regard it as being a welcome opening, but limited, and they want to try and explore how to extend it a little bit more. But overall, what we find is that the rights are diminished for mining-affected communities because I think they want a continuous supply of the minerals. And I want to really advise the government not have another dialogue, read the documents where we've given our informed consent. And free, prior, informed consent doesn't even appear as part of the bill. So someone can come here without even consulting you properly. So these are some of the issues that we want to try and engage. And that we're engaging in a language, it's very opaque. It's legalese. I don't know if it's one of our languages. People don't understand it. And when you try to get hold of officials to make it simple, they're not around.
Okay.
They're not around.
Advocate Makwasha, artisanal mining is a human right as opposed to something that now is only controlled by effectively big business, big miners?
I think we need to distinguish three. That we have large-scale mining in South Africa, which is the traditional mining that everyone is aware of. We have artisanal mining. These are cooperatives, communities gathering together who have licenses who can mine at that. But there's illegal mining, which is increasing due to the socio-economic factors in South Africa that we need to address and adequately address. And again, we had a report, we spoke about it as the Commission, the unregulated artisanal mining, underground and surface mining, highlighting the lives of informal miners, but also how do we then move away from the criminalization process to ensure that the right processes are adhered to. We have information on the ground of the impact artisanal mining has on communities and why community members are quick to then support artisanal mining as a form of poverty alleviation. So we do need to have those discussions ongoing.
Well, I'm sure there is. And the question is what sort of conversations. Let me wrap up then with Hassan Lorgat once again. In terms of the end goal of the conference, I mean, you want to end this conference with some clear plans and action plans of that. What would they be?
Government, talk to your people. We have ideas because we are at the coal face or outside the coal face because these are communities, not even included in legislation, not having a seat at Mine Health and Safety Council. People want a seat so they can make real decisions, can have a say in how mining affects them, and want the government to listen because that's a part of our social contract. When we elect you, we say, you promise us to listen to us. Come back and listen now. Don't have a big dialogue. We are having this all over.
So it's the mini dialogues rather than the national dialogue that probably is the ones that we need to be having. Thank you for your time. Hassan Lorgat, the program convener at the Tailings Working Group, that conference going on for the last few days. And before that, Advocate Sandra Makwasha, appreciate your time, Commissioner at the South African Human Rights Commission. Right, we should be getting a response on that media briefing we had earlier on. That may well come up later. It means I'll talk to you next.
Chasing the Sun is a 5-part South African sport documentary series. An inspiring story of the 4-time World Rugby Champions, the Springboks. The journey of winning the Rugby World Cup, a behind-the-scenes look of how the green and gold team overcame adversity, divisions, and doubt to become world champs. Be there when history shines. Tune into SABC2 on Sundays at 7:30 p.m. from 13 July to 10 August. Also available anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You're listening to the National Pulse.
All right, I need to hear what you have to say. I mean, that's an interesting point from Hassan Lorger, isn't it? Which is that we have, the national dialogue, but what we need to be upping is a whole series of very, very regional dialogues. Can I say communities of interest dialogues? Because those are the ones that truly matter. That doesn't mean one must diss the national dialogue, not at all. But at some stage, it has to filter down to these all-important communities of interest dialogues, right? Okay, in the meantime, let's get your comments.
Ashraf, I get worried. We've got people who are still in denial. Ashraf, there's nothing you can do on migration, and of which South Africa is not an exception. So there's this guy in Midrand who is every day on the radio talking about foreigners. This is not going to change anything. And this is a global phenomenon which we cannot change. Yeah. As much as we foreign nationals are doing criminality, even South Africans are also doing criminality. So, yeah, we will have to live with it. We can't do anything. Thanks, James Johannesburg.
Thanks for that, James. Look, James, let me reiterate what I have said often. If you're undocumented in this country and therefore you're an illegal foreigner, I mean, that's a no-go. It is government's failings that's allowed that to happen, not in terms of 10 people or 20 people, but like in terms of thousands, if not more. That we can't accept. They have to. That is a weakness of government more than anybody else. Opportunism will always happen for people trying to, get into another country. And you see movies about a stowaway and it's all very romantic. So that's going to happen where they seek their own better life. Number two, the issues of getting the balance right between even documented foreigners in our country and getting the balance right between them and citizens of the country originally, I think is very important that government has got to handle. No country allows like a carte blanche situation. The third part, and this is your point, it is a reality. Global migration takes place anywhere in the world. It does happen, right? And I do believe, and I've said so before, I think if managed properly, the issue of diversity of a country actually adds so much value to a country. And your last point is, yes, there are criminals who are foreign nationals and there are criminals who are born in South Africa, made in South Africa. So we can't tell everybody with the same brush. But the reality is the whole system has to be managed well. And if you manage it well and then bring in the foreigners that can add tremendous value and diversity to a country, there are skills that we need to learn from. There genuinely are skills that we need to learn from them. And I don't know why we're not doing that enough. But I also understand as I talk to you, someone is going to say, no, we don't want foreigners. Well, I don't support that carte blanche situation. I don't think that goes against South Africa's ethos as a country. I mean, that's just my feeling anyway, right? Okay, here's another.
Hey, Ashraf. The other reason that white people are not joining the ANC, well, some white people, because I'm sure Bakhona, who are in the ANC, we just don't know about it. It's because there is no real commitment in terms of reconciliation and social cohesion in this country, because we have the VF Plus, we've got the DA preaching something different, and people then are listening to what they think is good for them, not what is good for the country. Thanks, Sisbongi here. Well, thanks for that, Sisbongi. Look, as I've said so before, and I speak on so many platforms when I say, what is our national purpose? What is our rallying call as a country right now? If we said 1990 or 1988 was end apartheid, and 94 was nation building, and 2005 was like the 2010 World Cup, what's been our national purpose since then? It is in the interest of government and the national dialogue to come up with a national purpose that's a rallying call, and then link personal to national. If we don't have that, which we don't have at the moment, we're all floundering, doing our own thing with no GPS, if you get my point.
Hey, Ashraf, good afternoon. You know, I am so happy
and will be more happier if the wheels of justice is gonna start rolling onto those who siphon the public purse and make this country to be where it is today. And they're forgetting that the very same people today are calling themselves the MKP that will save the nation. We want to see when the wheel of justice start rolling, who will be those who are going to be arrested. Lennon.
Well, thanks for that, Lennon. I'll tell you what, that's come up even on the weekend, that as many accuse the current ANC leadership of being corrupt and doing different things that are just not acceptable as a leadership. Then others are being reminded to say how many members of the MK party in particular are squeaky clean. And therein lies the problem between those parties and the running of our country. Therein lies some serious problems that have not quite been arrested.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. This is Mbongo Sundisa. Mr. Ashraf, two things. There's a problem with this Paul O'Sullivan. I don't know. He's so controversial himself. I don't know. When he was once arrested in OR Tambo International Airport, I don't know how they missed him, because he should have been like there now by Sun City or Leo Kopenji. Something is dodgy about this guy. Why is he also fighting like Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi? What is it that he has against the Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi? There's a big problem with this guy. He's a problem, let me say so. He pretends as if he is mistaken. No, with all, this guy, man, he's very irritating.
Well, you certainly have amused me. It's like he's very irritating. I think many people will agree with you. Remember that interview that he had with Sakina Kamwendo on Morning Live? He's very irritating. But listen, the point about Athol Trollip, which he said, is like, he does sound, that is Paul O'Sullivan, he does come across as like he's the spokesperson for the whole police ministry. Like, think about it. Like, he's what he says comes across as like he's the police authority. It's an interesting one. 5:30, let's get the news headlines.
Quick look at the headlines. The chairperson of the Commission of Inquiry into Criminality, Political Interference and Corruption in the Criminal Justice System says the work of the Commission has now started. The Machayabeng municipality in the Free State has launched a probe into alleged corruption regarding the expanded public works program, and US President Donald Trump has admitted that there is real starvation in Gaza. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing towards Boysons, the N12 westbound queuing towards the N1 Dipkloof interchange, the N1 northbound in Sunninghill has a stationary truck reported before Buccleuch interchange, and SKM Batleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, queuing traffic reported on multiple routes throughout the Umhlanga area, so expect delays. The N2 northbound is slow moving towards Queen Nandi Drive. The N3 westbound queuing towards the M13 Paradise Valley interchange, and the N2 southbound a stationary truck reported at the M41 Gateway interchange. In Cape Town, the M3 Philip Khasana Drive outbound is where crash is reported. That's at Hospital Bend. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound has a crash reported at Hospital Bend, and on Lawrenceford Road southbound, a truck crash reported near Caledon Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Right, to me, the issue we touched on earlier on about what Cape Town City and Marumo Gallants and the boardroom of football. Tell me about it.
Well, Marumo Gallants could face a points deduction over the registration of midfielder Monde Mpambaniso. Cape Town City won an arbitration case claiming that Mpambaniso wasn't properly cleared from Leruma United. The PSL disciplinary committee will now investigate, and if Gallants are found guilty, they could lose points from matches where the player played, and it is said that he played 26 out of 28 games, and this could open the door for Cape Town City to be reinstated to top flight. This is after being relegated in the recent playoffs. Meanwhile, 3 Banyana players have been named in the official 2024 WAFCON team of the tournament, recognizing their standout performance at the tournament. Captain Refilwe Jane, along with defender Bambanani Mbani and Karabo Dlamini, were honored for their crucial roles in South Africa's campaign. Mbani and Dlamini were rock solid at the back, helping to keep a tight defense, while Jani ruled the midfield with her sharp passing vision and energy. Meanwhile, Durban City head coach Gavin Hunt has confirmed the arrival of Dane Clayt as a reserve team head coach and says that the appointment is to have someone who will make an immediate impact with the youth team.
Yeah, Dane's come in with a disky. I've got him with a disky. He knows what you're trying to do, and he's been successful with disky teams before. He likes to work in that space. He's a good coach, which is the most important thing. It's not about bringing people in, it's about bringing people who can coach, who know what they're doing on the training ground. We don't want people talking on computers, we want people training people on the training ground. That's the most important thing. And I think he knows what to do and how we want to work, and so it'll be good for the future.
In cricket, England have added fast bowling all-rounder Jamie Overton to their squad for this week's decisive fifth test against India at the Oval. The return of the paceman is the only change to the group from Old Trafford, where India yesterday escaped with a draw after batting for 5 sessions and 143 overs. Ben Stokes' side have been in pole position to move into an unassailable 3-1 lead in the 5-match series after taking a first innings lead of 311. In motorsport, McLaren boss Andrea Stella says that teammates Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris are racing like champions, and the Formula One title will probably be decided by fine margins and individual brilliance. The pair are 16 points apart in a 2-horse race, with the Australian Piastri leading McLaren's 6th 1-2 of the season in Belgium yesterday and taking his 6th win of the campaign. Red Bull's Max Verstappen is 3rd, but 81 points behind, with his hopes of a 5th successive title fast receding. Then in tennis, 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka has parted ways with coach Patrick Mouratoglou. This is after less than a year. The Japanese star teamed up with the Frenchman in September last year, and Osaka did not play in 2023 after the birth of her daughter and has struggled for consistency after returning to the professional circuit a year ago and is currently ranked 49. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. I'll be back again tomorrow.
Just one thing quickly, the Cape Town City Marumo Gallen story. So when did this incident happen? Point one. When did Cape Town City officially lodge the protest, I suppose? And when were they found that Marumo Gallen had in fact had fallen foul of the law? When did all this happen?
I'll give you the right dates tomorrow.
But not exact, I mean more or less?
I'll give you. Let me get the right dates, and then I'll get you the right dates.
That's an interesting one. Yeah, it's just like how long is how long?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, got that. In the meantime, supporters of the clubs are like waiting. Do I renew my season ticket?
Yeah,
it's something like that. Yeah. Okay.
All right then.
It all starts with advice from FNB Private, because the perfect overseas trip starts with planning. Save and spend in multiple currencies with your FNB Global account and lock in exchange rates. Enjoy up to 40% off flights with eBucks Travel and order Forex on the FNB app delivered to you at no extra cost. Your adventure awaits. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. TC's earn rules and limits apply.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah. Started out as a passion, and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, let's get to all those facts and figures in the business space. Jimmy Moya hosts the SAFM Market Update, right? Jimmy, what's your big story today?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. There is quite a bit to dig into today, most of it seemingly centered around a National Treasury. We're going to be looking at some key developments from a National Treasury in the form of an announcement around that just energy transition funding that we got from Germany. If you remember, we secured around 500 million euros from Germany around the just energy transition plans. We're going to be digging into that. The terms of that have come out. National Treasury spoken on that. But at the same time, last week, National Treasury signed through almost a new, I think it's just shy of 100 billion rands in guarantees for the team at Transnet. So we're going to dip into that as well as a conversation. Then we're going to have a separate Treasury-related conversation around their foreign currency borrowing program. They put out a call for proposals last week for assistance in developing a new solution there. So that's going to be a separate conversation we're going to be looking at as well with Chief Economist of Rand Merchant Bank, Isaiah Mhlanga. Then we've got a conversation around the Valterra results. Of course, that is the that is the company previously known as Anglo. We're going to be dipping into what those numbers look like at this juncture, or these particular reporting cycles. And then we're going to be taking a look at other numbers in our reporting or in our market segment, because there are a lot of companies reporting earnings out of the US this week as well. So that's going to be interesting to dip into there. And then we've got to look with the team at Nedbank Private Wealth at the savings journey in South Africa, the savings or the role of savings in South Africa. It is Savings Month. July has always been Savings Month. We're going to take a look at what we can expect from that perspective. And then we're going to wrap up the show with a digital drive. We're looking at smart kitchens and smart homes and how we make sense of that. But before we get to all of those conversations, a quick sense of how the markets have been moving. This is, of course, interest rate week. And so there is a lot that is up in the air from a local and an international perspective. It's not just South Africa that's going to be giving us a rates decision. We're also going to be getting a rates update from the United States. FOMC meeting is on Wednesday. Our own central bank meeting is on Thursday, and the markets seemingly are reacting to that ahead of time in the week. The rand is starting off the week much weaker than where we thought we would be. We are currently at around 17 rand 87 against the US dollar. We're at about 23.95 against the British pound and 20 rand 77 against the euro. If we have a quick look at the Australian dollar, 11 rand 66 a Bitcoin, $118,000 a Bitcoin, or roughly 2.11 million rand, with that weaker rand coming into effect there. Quick look at commodity markets and international markets as well. Commodity prices, platinum and palladium pricing steady, stable. Palladium almost back at $1,300 a fine ounce. Platinum $1,428. The Brent crude price seems to be the biggest surprise on the day, up closer towards that $70 a barrel level, 69.80 or so at the moment. And if we look at the gold price, $3,316 a fine ounce. International equity markets were by and large in mixed territory. The bulk of Asia markets were in the green, with the exception of the Nikkei that was down 1.1%. And if we look at European markets, all of them were in the red on the day's trade. Biggest loser there was the DAX in Germany, down a full percent. Our own local markets didn't have a much better day, didn't fare much better there. If we look at the resources counters, down 0.25%, industrials down 0.5%, and financials up 0.25%. So the overall impact of that on the all share down almost 0.25%. The top 40 almost down 0.25%, 0.23% there as well. And if we quickly take a look at where the US markets are sitting at the moment, the Nasdaq is up about 1/3 and the S&P up about 1/10. We're going to look into these market matters a little later on and see if we can understand what to expect from the week that lies ahead. But of course, that conversation comes up after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Thanks for that, Jimmy. Yeah, 6 to 7, listen out for that. And of course, from 7 to 8, it's Michael Abramson with an hour of, well, top sport.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Okay, so get ready to embark on a, well, this is crazy, a thrilling journey of crime, redemption, and the pursuit of justice. You're bound to enjoy all of this if you're up for that. Soon Comes Night. That's the show. Soon Comes Night. It premieres on SABC1, Sundays at 8 p.m. It's a tale about liberation hero turned heist king Alex Shabani in a 6-part drama. Amongst the people, the names starring in the show is Kwenzo Ngobo, Kenneth Nkosi, Albert Pretorius, Ditintle Kunu, and then Hwasi Raditolo, and then Anelizwa Pewa and Bahume Plongo. So there you are. That's just among some of the people. One man in search of justice, the other on a path to redemption.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So what we'll do is there's further comments I know from you, which we will pick up in just a moment or so, right? But in the meantime, and I'd like to get your thoughts on some of the other issues, including that chat about mining. It's an interesting one. What do you do regarding extraction of minerals from the mines, and then the mine workers getting paid and the impact that it has on the community, and the point that was made that how mining does damage the community, but the need for growth and sustenance is also very important. So I wonder what you make of all of that, right? Right. Let's now get onto, the issue that we touched on earlier on, the issue of the media briefing around that inquiry. I think is a very important one. And what we thought is let's get further comment on that from different sources, right? So one of them, which we want to pick up on, is certainly getting the position of... in fact, what we're going to do is let's do this. Let's start with, this is important, just a clip that we think that you need to be hearing, right? So first things first, we'll have Justice Madlanga giving details of the entities and the people involved. Just further details on the actual commission. Here it is.
Cases that we must investigate are the South African Police Service, the Metro Police of the 3 Gauteng metros, the National Prosecuting Authority, the State Security Agency, the Judiciary, Correctional Services, any other institution in the criminal justice system, and any member of the executive responsible for the criminal justice system. These entities and persons are to be investigated in relation to infiltration of law enforcement, intelligence, and associated institutions within the criminal justice system by criminal syndicates.
Okay, that's important. Now, let's pick up on that. The acting Deputy Chief Justice, of course, that's the voice you've heard, Imbuyiseli Madlanga, right? Let's move on now, get further reaction. In this case here, reaction from the South African Policing Union. Their spokesperson is Lesiba Tubakale. Lesiba, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Thank you for having us. Greetings to yourself and to your listeners.
Thank you. So it's an interesting one when we have commissions after commissions, but in this case here, so much of what was discussed and what's bound to happen regarding that commission centers around people that your policing union is very, very linked to, isn't it?
Yeah, no, indeed, those allegations that were made really touches at the heart of SAPS as an organization, which we are a stakeholder, indeed. Yeah. And the expose that was made, it really made allegations that are serious in nature, of which even prior to the allegations that were made, we then, 2 weeks prior, we did make a call to say there should be a commission of inquiry into Crime Intelligence Division. And when the president then expanded the scope to look into, a lot of organizations that are related to law enforcement, including, NPA and also others, we clearly welcome that. We hope that the commission will assist us moving forward. And today, listening to the chairperson of the inquiry, indeed giving the roadmap in terms of which direction is the commission going to take, which is something that we clearly welcome, because the consultations which were mentioned to be imminent and also the investigations, they are quite critical into this process.
Okay.
And we also clearly do welcome that process moving forward. We hope it will uncover a lot of things.
Okay, so a lot was said in terms of what the Deputy Chief Justice said, and then of course there was a Q&A from the media. So that 30 minutes, a lot was said. What do you make of it? What for you are the key issues that stand out for you today?
Now, our key issues, it is clearly based on political interference, because for the longest time, we have been calling and raising issues, even at the Portfolio Committee, writing to the President about the issue of political interference. not only now, I mean, previously we have done that, and seeing political interference where a minister is able to close a political task team, though he's not even the accounting officer of SAPS. That clearly shows you that politicians, when they become ministers or in subs, they think they are then the national commissioners. So that is really a very critical issue for us to say, as this commission is moving forward, it needs to look deeper into the political interference. And when we look at the proclamation that was then made by the president, where it touches on criminality, the inquiry will look into criminality, political interference and corruption. We believe the commission doing their work on those areas, we would be able to uncover most of the things that, are clearly not known to the public and that are clearly not right in this regard. And we hope that even moving forward to the issue of political interference, we hope that it will be, the commission will assist us so that it can be a thing of the past. Because political interference, honestly speaking, it is what has landed us to be where we are.
So what do you make therefore? I mean, he touched on, the terms of reference, the type of organizations that will be investigated as part of their work, and potential action being taken, and a 3-month period of that interim report in terms of their wish list, and maybe a few other points. Anything you'd like to pick out of what was said today?
Yeah, no, I think the terms of reference clearly coming from the regulations, clearly we do welcome them. Because looking at the expose and those number of areas that were highlighted to say there's things that are not right, that are happening there, we hope that moving forward in terms of those specific departments, they will be looked into. That is quite critical, so that when we move forward in fighting crime, we can move forward fighting against crime and not fighting against one another. And also it will be able to deal with the issue of, what we see as the biggest enemy now, which is political interference in this regard, so that when one comes in as an executive, they can be able to understand the separation of powers and be able to exercise it, not to act as if they understand it, not to speak as if one understands, and on the other side, they are not as they are saying, as we think that they are. So we hope that what has been outlined in terms of the timeframes as well, which are quite important to say the issues of the 3 months in terms of the preliminary report and the actions that needs to be taken if it gets to be found that some criminal elements were found and there's proof to that, that action should be taken, not to clearly wait for the final report in terms of the recommendations that would clearly be made. This is what we need in terms of law enforcement, more especially even when it touches the heart of SAPS as an organization.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I appreciate you giving off your time today. I'm sure there'll be further reaction of that tonight and certainly on tomorrow's show with Tula Sizwe in the morning as well. Lesiba Tobakale, the South African Policing Union spokesperson, much appreciate you connecting with us here on the show today.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30 or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Okay, let's get to you, right? In fact, there's a comment about Kaizer Chiefs Football Club.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. If they talk points from Marumo Gardens, which means Kaizer Chiefs is going to play top 8. Yes, this is Bongani from Chatsworth.
We never even thought about that. I mean, like, that's the most important thing in your life, isn't it? You see, it has implications, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. You know, the fact is that when the ANC took over in '94, they were given a vibrant economy, infrastructure that worked, a public sector which worked efficiently, not like it is today. They have squandered all of that. They have raped the coffers of this land and not given back to the people who would have benefited, obviously. Why didn't they train their own people before they put them in place and got rid of all the others, the whites, Indians, coloreds working in the public sector? That's the problem. So they took over and then they just willy-nilly looted the whole country's coffers. So yeah, this is Mike from Hillcrest and KZN.
Thanks for that, Mike. I wonder if others would concur with you that is what is the case. But I'll tell you what, generally there's been an issue with regard to liberation movements that they're very good at trying to win power, and then to sustain it and to maintain as a government is another story. So there are clearly some brilliant examples of the ANC really working well, but there are some failures, and I think your point is an interesting one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I think the problem with the leader of the ANC Youth League, maybe he doesn't understand the ANC that he claims to be leading. You know, to try and cleanse corruption from the ANC is like a pipe dream. You can never be able to do that. In fact, corruption is in the DNA of the ANC. Now, the best thing that can happen in order to save this country is to get rid of the ANC. In fact, I challenge him, he must go and read the history of liberation movements in 30 years. They all die. You know, so the best thing that we can do is to thank the ANC and give the ANC a decent funeral. That's the best way to save this country. Thank you.
Sure. Is that really the best way? You may be right about the liberation movements. They generally have this 3-decade life, position in terms of them being running a country, and then things just go wrong, right? What will happen now? I don't know. Think about it, too. Well, we know they've lost numbers the last election.
Hi, Ashraf. David here. Good afternoon to you and to your listeners. Please check or ask your guest. I heard him saying he's calling the ministers to come and account. What about the mayors? In particular, Polokwane scandal, which is flying all over, trending all over, with a lot of money being squandered by few individuals through the mayor and his while people are suffering without services. Business people in particular closing their doors, and then that will just shun away the voters of the ANC. Thank you.
So that's often enough, right?
Hi, Ashraf and the ACFM. Ashraf, the purpose of the soccer is to entertain the people, to keep them intrigued, so that those people, will be less crime. But the soccer here in South Africa, it's closing for a long time. They're going on leave more than any other people into this, working place. So please,
I'm trying to fully understand what you mean. I really am.
Hi, Ashraf. You know, there is actually a common pattern amongst liberation movements around the world in terms of not only turning against its people and losing itself, but also failure to self-correct or failure to recognize a change in the agenda or what they're supposed to stand for after liberation. So the ANC, as far as we all can see, baby, they're probably just following the same pattern to wither away and die after a while, probably. Ibrahim Cape Town.
Thanks for that. I think Ibrahim, appreciate it. I'll tell you what, I know there's been this conference over the weekend about liberation movements. I'd love to do a complete study about, 50 liberation movements in the world and how long, when they took power, if they were able to, what happened to them next. How long did it take? for the power to be voted out of power. It will be fascinating.
Hi, good afternoon, Aisha. If we need this country to be fine, we as people, or some of the people, they must stop protecting criminals. Because if, like, they arrest E.g. Jacob Zuma, people started to loot, but they knew that he messed this country.
Okay, got that. I tell you what, I mean, here's another one. I think it's Tim saying, Ashraf, you run a brilliant show. I can't see that anymore. Let me find it. And it's just worth commenting. Ashraf, you run a brilliant show, but honestly, why do you rattle on after voice messages expressing your opinion? The nation wants to talk. Your rambling comments could fit in more voice messages. John lets it flow. Kathy lets it flow. Let me comment on that one, Jim. I tell you what, there's two schools of thought on this one, and this is my school of thought, that if we're simply taking a voice note and running 5 or 6 in a row and say thank you for your voice note, then where's the conversation on that? I feel that voice notes are like people calling in. So you give your point of view, and if I need to challenge you, I will. And if I need to comment, it's my way of doing so. So in that case, we actually have a conversation as opposed to you simply giving out a voice note, which I just acknowledge and I say thank you. I hope you get that. I mean, that makes sense to you. Somebody else saying, Ashraf, you always sort of, and I don't have the exact words because I can't find it any longer, but talking about the MK Party. Well, all I can tell you about, insinuating something about the MK Party, just Google the MK Party leadership. Not 1, 50 of them. See what comes out.
Mike must not come up with stories here. The economy of South Africa was not vibrant. Yes, the ANC has damaged the economy as we speak, but the prosperity of this country happened under the ANC's government. I'm not an ANC supporter. I would like to concur that, yes, they have damaged and they have stolen. But you must not lie that the economy of South Africa was vibrant. It was under sanctions, and the ANC government had to pay their loans that they had made to the World Bank, had to settle their debt before we could even start to build this economy. Yes, they are stealing, but you must not lie.
Yes, they are stealing, but they must not lie. Can we leave it at that for tonight? It has been the National Pulse. As always, pick out all the podcasts we've done, listen to it, download it, share it with your friends and family, and have a conversation about it. Always love to get feedback from you on that. And you can share on the Twitter, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok as well, SAFM. You'll find us there too, and myself too. Love to engage with you as far as the show is going. Thank you for listening. We'll do it again tomorrow. Don't forget, 3 to 6. It always is the National Pulse, isn't it? Here's the news with Greg.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Justice system probe gets underway and Trump says food centres will be set up in Gaza. Good evening. The chairperson of the Commission of Inquiry into Criminality, Political Interference and Corruption in the Criminal Justice System, Justice Mbuyiseni Madlanga, says the work of the commission has now started. The president announced the establishment of the body earlier this month in response to allegations made by the KwaZulu